We've already done the Pledge of Allegiance and saluted to the flag. I will rename the trustees who are in the room. We have Trustee Foreman, and starting on your left and on my right, Trustee Foreman, Trustee Mackey, Trustee Flores, Trustee Mitchke, Trustee Garcia, Trustee Solis, Trustee Marshall, and Trustee Johnson is in the room as well. Our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Michael Hinojosa, joins us, and I'm Justin Henry, Board President. Trustee Flores, could you do us the honors?
Sí, si hay alguien que necesita los servicios de un intérprete, aquí el joven o la señorita les puede ayudar con el equipo. Gracias.
Thank you. Trustees, there are no recognitions tonight. I'm going to make, unless someone has an, oh, no, we're going to wait. Unless someone has an objection, I'm going to move up the reports of the trustees and the superintendent, and then we'll do the public forum. So we're going to start with Report 4.01, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Hinojosa.
Trustee Henry, there were 2 recognitions added after the agenda was posted, so if we can make time for those, I'd appreciate it.
If it's the recognitions that I think they are, can you do them during your accolades?
Well, we have a group of students here.
Okay.
We've discussed it with board services. They're prepared to make the accolades.
So, Trustee Marshall can begin the accolades for the student groups, the 2 student groups.
Yeah, I believe Kay has the information, and then we'll welcome the 2 groups up separately for photos.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Voice for Every Child Award is Texas PTA's most prestigious membership award for local PTAs that strive to have one voice for every child on their campus. The platinum level means the local PTA recruits members equal to at least 100% of campus student enrollment. Lakewood Elementary PTA recruited 1,285 members for the 2019-2020 school year. That is a phenomenal accomplishment when the school has 942 students. National PTA Schools of Excellent Distinction is a 2-year designation, and Travis Vanguard and Academy is the first Dallas ISD school to receive this award. The program supports and celebrates partnerships between PTAs and schools to enrich the educational experience and overall well-being for all students. This concludes our recognitions.
We'll now turn to the superintendent's report.
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board, 3 very quick announcements. Last night we were very fortunate to celebrate our Teachers of the Year. We had a bunch of great finalists that were recognized. But our elementary teacher of the year is Eric Hale from David G. Burnett Elementary School. And our secondary teacher of the year is Katie Benningfield from the School of Talented and Gifted at Pleasant Grove. So congratulations to these wonderful teachers. Second item, very briefly, is the school district also is winning a prestigious award of the Caudale 2019-20 Award for School Architecture. The Solar Girls Prep for Girls has been recognized. That facility has been recognized, will be recognized at the state convention this weekend. And so congratulations to our school and our architects who have come up with that award. And then lastly, I'm very, very pleased to announce that the Dallas ISD has been selected as a finalist for the HEB Excellence in Education District Award. It recognizes districts that have improved achievement along with many other factors. The judges will be here in Dallas on February the 28th. and the district, should it win, will get awards. There are 4 other districts in the large district category. I think if you combined all 4 of them, they wouldn't be as big as Dallas. Sharyland in the Valley, Mesquite, Northwest, which is north of Fort Worth, and Galena Park from the Houston area. So congratulations to the board and the staff and the tremendous accomplishments of our students to be finalists in the HEB Distinction Award. And that concludes my report this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Anholt. So we're going to start with, Trustee Foreman. You want to do accolades? Okay, Trustee Mackey.
Good evening. I want to give a shout out to Quetzali Chavez for representing District 7 at the MLK Junior Oratory Competition semifinals. And congratulations to all of the students who participated and paid tribute to the late civil rights leader's legacy. I also want to give a huge thanks to my former student, Abedman Barmel, from my old school Tag Magnet, for donating 3D printers with his summer job money to schools across Dallas ISD at the elementary school level, including 2 in District 7, James Bowie and Felix Boteo, to give students the opportunity to access 3D printers and get interested in STEM careers and what's out there. I also want to give a shout out to Lenore K. Hall Elementary School for garnering media attention for their partnership with the North Texas Food Bank to provide healthy produce and food options for families. And additionally, I want to add my voice to the chorus of voices that are going to be up here, congratulating Mr. Hale and Miss Benningfield for winning the Dallas ISD Teacher of the Year this year, and for all of the finalists that were there, and so many other amazing teachers out there. And I want to give a special shout out to Miss Driscoll from LK Hall for being a fabulous elementary school teacher of 5th grade science. So congratulations to all of those participants and the winners.
Thank you, Trustee Mackey. Trustee Flores.
Thank you, President Henry. So first of all, congratulations to Harry C. Withers Elementary School's 4th grader Dominic Patermo. He was the 2nd place winner at the 24th Annual Foley Gardier MLK Junior Oratory Competition. Dominic delivered a great speech, and his performance was quite inspirational. I should also add that we almost had it again this year. Withers has won this competition on a couple occasions previously, but we are incredibly proud of Dominic. Also, kudos to the innovative Dolphineers of Everett DeGollier Elementary School, where my kids went to elementary school. The team won the Little Einstein Award at the STEM Expo this past weekend. I also want to thank all the citizens of District 1 who came out last week to the Walnut Hill Neighborhood Association community meeting. In particular, I want to thank ESD for hosting us at their beautiful facility. We were able to share some of the plans and to begin the discussion about what the schools at Cary and TJ will begin to look like, and to discuss plans to bring those schools back to their neighborhood. I can't express how critical it is to engage with each other in the community, and I appreciate the opportunity that they provided us, both the Walnut Hill Neighborhood Association and ESD for hosting us. And finally, I also want to congratulate the Teachers of the Year. I was there at the event yesterday. It's one of the best events of the year, along with our Principal of the Year and all the other different groups that we support at the school district. It was a fantastic event. Thank you for HEB and Central Market for sponsoring that event. And that's my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Trustee Flores. Trustee Mitchkay.
I want to pick up a little bit after what Trustee Flores said about Dominic Patermo, who was the runner-up in the MLK oratory competition. I did get to see him speak along with the other contestants in the competition, but Dominic was invited, as the tradition, to the Dallas Bar Association on MLK Day to make the presentation. And he did a terrific job, standing ovation. And we also had a lawyer who was honored with an MLK award, and his first comment was, "Why did you make me follow this 4th grade student who was a terrific orator?" So we're very proud of our DISD students and very proud of that program in particular. I'd like to congratulate the Bryan Adams High School boys swim team for becoming district champions, and also to congratulate the girls swim team for coming in as runner-ups to the district title. Also, Bryan Adams is hosting its Destination Bryan Adams High School Community Fair this Saturday at 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. to celebrate every child's journey from elementary to high school. There will be hands-on activities, food, live performance, information booths, and community vendors. And I'd also like to announce that the Jack Lowe Senior Elementary ribbon cutting for its National Blue Ribbon will be tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. And we're all looking forward to celebrating that well-deserved honor. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Mitchke. Trustee Garcia.
Good evening, everyone. I am so proud to share that our own Miss Katie Benningfield, a Secondary Teacher of the Year, proudly represents District 4. I wasn't able to attend, but I was able to see a snippet of the words that she gave, and she said, being from Pleasant Grove is so exciting, and it gives me so much pride to have such talent and amazing work going on in Southeast Dallas specifically. Proud to have and honored to have her talents and dedication recognized, and for all our DISD educators. So again, congratulations. I was also fortunate to volunteer for a beautification project on MLK Day at John Quincy Adams, where we essentially were trying to give our students a beautiful campus, a campus that they deserve and feel loved and protected on each and every single day. And so kudos to the John Quincy Adams community for gathering neighbors and making sure that we are working together for all our students. And finally, at the parent-teacher conferences at Bland Elementary School, Elizabeth Vitalia Photography donated their time to take professional pictures of our families. And if you know how that goes, it's always a joy to post those on social media. The company made available their time at no cost, and I want to thank them for supporting our schools and our families directly. Lastly, also had the opportunity to attend the MLK competition. And the number one thing I would say that was in every single one of the student speeches coming from 4th and 5th grader was how much the value of education plays into the vision of MLK for the year 2020 and moving forward. So we all take that to heart, and I'm so proud that our students are representing us so well. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Trustee Garcia. Trustee Solis.
Thank you, Mr. President. Kudos to TJ Rusk Middle School science teacher Talisha Minter for being one of 7 Dallas ISD teachers recognized last month by the Texas Instruments Innovations in STEM Teaching Award. The Innovation Design and Entrepreneurship Academy will be hosting a preview night and an open house on February 10th for incoming 8th grade students from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. The school is also looking for mentors for their students. So if you want to give back to your community or make an impact on a student's life, it's a great way to engage. You can contact the school for more information, and you can find the school's information on the Dallas ISD website, dallasisd.org. The science team at IDEA also did a great job representing District 8 at the Dallas ISD STEM Expo last weekend, with 2 students taking first place in the biomedical science team projects, which investigated antibiotics. Congratulations to all the students who participated. And lastly, I want to personally congratulate District 8 teachers Maggie Lindner, who is a teacher at Solar Preparatory School for Girls, who was a finalist for Teacher of the Year. And also Mr. Eric Hill, as has been mentioned before, who's from Burnett Elementary, for being chosen specifically as the Elementary Teacher of the Year. The thing that's so special about Eric is that Eric has been at Burnett for quite some time, doing amazing work, always trying to figure out how he can be better for his students. But the other thing that's really special about Eric is how much the Burnett community and the neighborhood around Burnett Elementary mean to him. He and the Burnett staff have been stalwarts throughout this entire process related to the devastation of the tornado, and through the great work of people like Eric and the attention that we've brought to Burnett, they have done a great job in raising funds for that school as well. So Eric, thank you very much for not just the work that you do in our class every single day, but for what you've done in bringing attention to Burnett Elementary. And lastly, I want to reiterate Dr. Hinojos' shout out to Solar Preparatory School for Girls, particularly for their facility award that they received. Over the course of many years, the architects that were associated with that project did a really great job of engaging the community and figuring out a way how to tie in what they heard from the community into the building of the facade that exists today. That's essential, and it's really a perfect example of DISD doing great work, engaging community, and building facilities. So thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to say that.
Thank you, Trustee Solis. Trustee Johnson.
I just want to thank everyone for working with the community to celebrate the reopening of South Oak Cliff High School earlier this month. It was a wonderful occasion. The students, staff, and community were elated to return to their home. The building is beautiful, and we can all be proud to have been a part of this historic event. Again, congratulations to Travis Vanguard. I'm very excited what's going on. Also, thank you to J.C. Penney's and Shaquille O'Neal for blessing the South Oak Cliff student athlete, Kyla Owens, with the updated wardrobe for prom and college interviews and hanging out with our kids during that night. Also, congratulations to all of our kids who participated in our Martin Luther King Oratory Contest. It was an excellent contest. The kids was wonderful at Addison, and congratulations to all the kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Johnson. Trustee Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to give again a congrats to the Lakewood Elementary PTA for receiving that Voice of Every Child Award, platinum level. It's truly remarkable to have 1,285 members of the PTA when you only have 942 students. I'd love to see that level of parental involvement at all the schools throughout the district. Also want to congratulate Hillcrest High School's Chandrea Yeldell, who tops the Dallas Morning News list of having the best basketball stats in all of DFW. Also would encourage you to mark your calendar for February 21st for the second annual Geneva Nights, which supports the school and Pre-Geneva Association, which is dedicated to parents of small children planning to attend the school for pre-K or kindergarten. I'm proud to sponsor this event happening at the Granada that evening. I also want to thank Dallas Council Member Jennifer Gates and AT&T Manager Mike Peterson for partnering and sponsoring Preston Hollow Elementary to host an animal adventure program from the Dallas Zoo. And I, too, want to add my congratulations to Mr. Hale and Miss Benningfield for winning the Teacher of the Year. I enjoyed the event last night, and I want to thank Central Market for giving financial rewards to our teachers. God knows they need more recognition. And also, I want to give a special shout-out to JL Long's Miss Caitlin Schmidt for being one of the finalists. Also want to give a shout-out to JL Long Principal Chandra Barnett for hosting all of the fifth graders in the feeder pattern for the last 2 days at JL Long to help them prepare for sixth grade and to shake out all the nervous jitters about moving into middle school. I attended the show today, and it's a great community-building activity for the feeder pattern that I'd encourage all DISD middle schools to replicate. I also want to congratulate North Dallas senior Jayla McIntosh, who was named District 12-4's Blocker of the Year in volleyball, and also give a shout-out to the boys and girls teams at JL Long soccer teams who became undefeated District 2 champions. Also, congrats to 2 North Dallas seniors who were named to District 8 4A's Division I first team on defense. That's Sanique Lampkin and Terrell Carter. And I want to give a congratulations to the Woodrow Wilson girls swim team who became district champs. Way to go, ladies. I especially enjoy beating District 3 on the other side of the lake. And want to congratulate the Woodrow Wilson IB students who got to travel to Paris to compete in the Clash of the Titans film festivals. They were nominated for 5 awards. And lastly, congratulations to the North Dallas soccer team, which scored a 1-0 victory over Woodrow to take third place in the Berkner Ice Bowl tournament. The Bulldogs are still undefeated, so proud of those guys. That concludes my District 2 report.
Thank you, Trustee Marshall. So I'm going to give the District 9, I'm sorry, Trustee Foreman, go ahead. Yes, ladies first. You got it.
I appreciate it. So I'd like to give a big thumbs up to Kimball High School boys soccer teams, both the JV and the varsity teams, for winning the 2020 JV Ram Cup Championship and the Ice Bowl Tournament. Go Kimball Knights. And then congratulations to David W. Carter High School swim team. Many of you know that many of the young people last year when they won the championship were not swimmers. Well, let me tell you, we have back-to-back championships for David W. Carter, and I am so excited about that. Thank you, Coach James Spencer, and of course, Principal Jonathan Smith. I also attended a workshop on last Sunday at Friendship West Baptist Church that was put on by Education is Freedom to talk about the opportunities for young people to continue to enroll in our classes that are our specialty schools. And so we're excited about the things that are happening in District 6.
Thank you, Trustee Foreman. I'm going to give the District 9 report. I want to say kudos again to fifth grader Colin Harris, who many of my colleagues have already mentioned, from J.P. Stark's Math, Science, Technology Vanguard, who won first place in a $1,000 cash prize in the 2020 MLK Junior Oratory Competition, sponsored by the Foley and Lardner Law Firm. Colin wowed the judges with his topic on what would Dr. King's vision for America be in 2020. I also want to send congratulations to two other District 9 finalists, Micah Wilson of Paul L. Dunbar and Kyla Combs of Charles Rice. I also want to say not every school can boast of 30 years of advancing academic progress. One school that can make that brag is Frederick Douglass Elementary, which is holding a 30th anniversary celebration at 6 p.m. Friday, February 21st. Community members are invited to attend the celebration at the school located at 226 North Jim Miller Road. I want to share that the community is invited to a family health fair at the Great James Madison High School this Saturday, January 25th, from 9 a.m. to noon, sponsored by DIC's Family and Community Engagement Team. The event will feature free health and vision screenings, immunizations, 50 resource booths, and free refreshments. I want to publicly thank 3 corporate donors who supplied support to District 9 schools. Cumulus Media and the J.W. Bagley Foundation recently donated a total of $42,000 to the Martin Luther King Jr. Learning Center, soon to be the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Arts Academy, for teacher and student resources. And the Dallas Mavericks treated a select group of Lincoln High School students to a free game, courtside seats, and dinner. Go Mavs. And I want to say a few more things. I want to again send public acknowledgement to Mr. Held and Mrs. Benningfield for being awarded Teacher of the Year in DISD's incredible accomplishment. We all know the work that our teachers do in our classrooms. I want to also highlight again, we've talked about this before, that Mr. Hill also received a national award from the Council of Great City Schools. So we have some of the best educators in the country right here in DISD. This month is Board Appreciation Day, so I just want to send a short public appreciation to my colleagues on the board. From left to right, the amount of commitment you put in for our kids on a volunteer basis, the sacrifice from your families and friends and job and other obligations. I really do appreciate the work that you do for our kids on this board. And I last want to send a short acknowledgement to our District 9 Task Force. I've seen a number of you in the room today. Thank you for attending many meetings, some on short notice, and for being here tonight. That concludes the District 9 accolades. So our agenda now calls for public forum segment of our meeting. We'll begin with the speakers to agenda items and follow that by speakers to non-agenda items. Ms. Gully, can you please call the names of the speakers?
Yes. Speakers, you will have 3 minutes to speak. When you arrive at the microphone, please state your name and address. Our first speaker is Bill Betson, followed by Pastor Todd Atkins.
Howdy, thank you. Bill Betson, 6717 Cliffwood, Dallas, Texas. I'm here to speak about how TEI hurts Dallas ISD student achievement. This is data that Dr. Hinojosa should be including in the reports he gives to the public. I'm going to talk about 4 different studies, and the data from those studies is online at dallasisd.us. You can go there, and it prints out to about 5 pages, but it is tedious, and it links to the sources, and if anybody doubts the data, I would love to talk with them about it. So here are the 4 points. First, TEI has doubled teacher turnover in Dallas ISD. When I posted this online earlier today, somebody posted back that they have stopped using TEI in Colorado Springs, District 11, where Mike Miles came from after he had started TEI in District 11. Well, as you know, when you hear something on Facebook, you got to go verify it. So I called the district, and I called a few more sources I've developed over the years in Colorado Springs. It was verified multiple times. The reason is they realized they had become a training source for teachers. The teachers would come there, stay a few years, and leave. Does that sound familiar? Anyhow, our turnover is outrageous. It has gone from being 2.8% below the state average for 6 years to the last 6 years, it's now 3 percentage points above the state of Texas. We can't ignore that. This last year, it went up another 0.7%. So we've got to pay attention to it. Second point, the TEI has led to the NAEP scores suffering their greatest 4-year drop on record in 2015 through 2019. I have put the data online. It is at dallasisd.us if anybody doubts it and wants to go see it and look at the sources. I've also put up all the charts as to the actual scores. Third, TEI has led to a 9-fold explosion of the average teacher salary difference between the 19 schools with the least poverty and the 200 with the most poverty. And the big point that hurts me there is 3 of those most wealthy schools happen to be Anglo schools that got an average increase that is now over the regular salaries in the rest of the district of $11,200. Pay attention to that. They are not the high-performing schools. They have an average SEI of only 52. 54 schools have a higher SEI score.
Thank you, Mr. Benson.
But only 6 have higher salaries.
Pastor Todd Atkins, followed by DeMarcus Mitchell.
I'm Pastor Todd Atkins of the South Dallas Fair Park Faith Coalition. Address is 3918 Crozier Street in South Dallas. I lead a coalition of pastors, community organizations, and hospital systems. I'm here to speak on agenda item 8.02. I'm in great favor of H.S. Thompson getting their school back, but I'm against the changes to J.J. Rose. I'm always an advocate for community neighborhood schools, and I believe that J.J. Rose is fighting for their neighborhood schools, and we want to be involved in celebrating H.S. Thompson coming back and not at the same time having to mourn or fight for another neighborhood school to remain open. I believe our community is willing to pull up their sleeves and do whatever we can to help J.J. Rose, but again, I believe that these 2 great institutions have stood side by side for years, and I think they can continue to work. I was talking with some of the neighborhoods residents, and I believe that they even told me that when we was talking about H.S. Thompson, we had a goal of 400 students at H.S. Thompson. And so we want to be involved in celebrating H.S. Thompson, supporting them, but again, our community is advocating for maintaining J.J. Rose as a neighborhood school. Also, speaking with our child care centers who are institutions in our neighborhood, they are fearful of losing students, losing employees. We almost employ close to 100 of our women who live in our community who work at these child care centers. And we want to continue to build our community members. And I believe also the teachers at J.J. Rose need to be freed from any unnecessary anxiety about what's going to happen to their positions if the changes are made to J.J. Rose. I'm a preacher. I normally go overtime, so I'm going to leave a minute and 10 seconds. Thank you.
DeMarcus Mitchell, followed by Calvin Johnson.
Good evening. My name is John Proctor. My address is 2627 Martin Luther King Boulevard. I'm here back again around Martin Luther King Day last 3 years ago about the same deal. I was just appalled to know that the MBE number goals have went to 30% when we had them at professional services 45, contractor services 35, and we had relinquished some of our controls over the MBE process to a GC on a CMAR. CMAR is something that I agree with because I understand the concept of CMAR. CMAR has been first used in this city, major, with black and Hispanics at Omni Hotel. We built that hotel under budget, under time, and a top quality hotel. We moved that same team at CMAR to Parkland and built a $500 million hotel. CMAR. CMAR means a joint venture. Joint venture is how you build MBE primes. Who came out of that was H.J. Russell and Ateca, which is Louis Espinola. They are primes in this city. We don't have black primes in this city, and you know it. The deal is we thought we could bring the big boy to town, which used to doing CMAR, understand CMAR, But when they got down here to DISD, they come up with a different program. And that program is that we don't need blacks and Hispanics at no CMR. We're going to come up with something like a team agreement, super sub. Or we'll have the audacity to go get the smallest black contractors, the smallest Hispanic contractors, and joint venture with them that cannot bond. I'm advocate for them people. I'm the chairman of the Region of Black Contractors. But you don't go in a joint venture with somebody that can't bond. You have to bond your job because you are going capacity because now you've got scope where you can hire other small black and Hispanic companies. You control the scope. Now that has been taken away from us at DISD, and it appalled me because I supported it, CMAR because of that very reason. We have Texas Live is CMAR, Texas Central Rail is CMAR, JV. All of these big projects, the Ranger Stadium is CMAR, JV. The County Records Building is CMAR, JV. All these projects, DFW is CMAR, JV. But DISD, they come up with a concept with no blacks allowed and no Hispanics allowed to be prime contractors. Prime contractor just like a PhD. Once you get it, can't nobody take it away from it. Then you can go all over
Thank you.
and
Your
be at
time
the prime.
has expired.
It's a sad day.
DeMarcus Mitchell, followed by Calvin Johnson. Tabitha Wheeler Reagan.
I'm Attorney Calvin Johnson. I was just waiting for the person that was ahead of me. My name is Calvin Johnson. I'm at 2223 Pine, Dallas, Texas, 75215. I attended the original H.S. Thompson Elementary School, and I'm a graduate of the 1990 class of Law Magnet, which is the Public Services for Government and Law. The reason why I'm coming to talk to the people tonight, and also just to let you know as well, I was the former attorney of Alliance AFT. I was the general counsel there for 5 years. So I have experience in dealing with schools and looking at how schools affect communities. First of all, I would like to talk to you about inclusion, stability, and gentrification. People in the South Dallas community feel like we're always the meeting after the meeting. We get late notice to meetings, lack of front-end inclusion, lack of community notice and buy-in, lack of including the proper stakeholders, lack of schools in walkable distances, and understanding the global effect on communities. Like, for example, the situation with the daycare centers and the workers that want to lose their jobs. We have to look at stability. When you close a school, you're closing sometimes the only stable thing in the communities. We can no longer be the experiment. Under Mike Miles, we were a big experiment. They got rid of a lot of our teachers, a lot of experienced educators who at sometimes were the only people that these kids had to look up to. When you do that, when you close schools, you get rid of teachers and support staffs that are some of the only stable things in our communities. Sometimes you are taking the only stable things in these kids' lives. Our teachers spend more time with the kids than some of their parents because of the 8-hour school days. On the previous administration, with schools closed, it decimated some of the only stabilities in our community. The last thing I'm going to talk to you about is gentrification. Let's be real. If you're smart, everyone knows that to gentrify a community, the quickest way to do that is to close schools and move schools farther away from housing that people use. And in the last 8 years in South Dallas alone, I think 5 to 7 schools have been closed. Our brows go up when that happens because we're smart enough to know when you close a school, no one will want to live there. DISD has to do a better job in these areas so that people can trust the district. I'm going to be honest with y'all. We are concerned about the closures of Joseph J. Rose. Now, I have been in meetings with Justin Henry, and he's been good about trying to respond better to the community. But one thing I'll tell you, I went to H.S. Thompson. I can no longer go there. Thank God it's opening back up. However, the people at Joseph J. Rose, they want their school. They have pride in that school. You don't understand, for some of these kids in some of these communities, you have to start looking at more than just dollars. These schools are institutions in these communities. And if you're going to close them, you are going to take away the only stable thing in the kids' lives. And right now, we are being harmed for that because I want you to pay attention. You know what's happening to our 14, 15, and 16-year-olds? Well, when we made all those changes about 7 or 8 or 9, 10 years ago, you took the only stable things out of their lives. And now crime is up, and they are not progressing to the level that they need to because you took the only thing away that was positive in their lives. Thank you.
Tabitha Wheeler-Reagan, followed by Dr. Orly Watson.
Hi, my name is Tabitha Wheeler-Reagan. I live at 4412 Malcolm X Boulevard. I'm a community leader and also a also a business owner in South Dallas. We spoke with Trustee Henry on last night concerning item 710. I don't know if it was pulled. Was it pulled today, or it looked like it was set to be pulled concerning J.J. Rhodes. And one of the things that we have said often is that we want to be more included. We want the H.S. Thompson meetings were not set in the area that the H.S. Thompson parents will be able to get to. We did have that finally in Bunton community on yesterday. But if J.J. Rhodes is closed, and based off of what are you saying right now is not enough kids, but what we are seeing in South Dallas and living there, that the houses are going up at a rapid number. There were about 100 empty lots just in the area around J.J. Rhodes at one time, but now those lots are filling up quickly with homeowners, not just renters, people that are going to be stable in that community. We're asking you to set this vote aside on the boundary change at least until the fall season, and also look and see how many homes are going to be built during that period. South Dallas is coming back at a rapid speed, but why would I want my elementary school children to walk somewhere? If that's a choice I make, I'll send them to a charter school. That's what parents are saying. So do we need our children going to more charter schools because they're mad at DISD because they don't feel like they're going to have a stable schooling system? We need to be we only have 3 schools left because you're saying that Martin Luther King is going to be an arts academy. We have J.J. Rhodes, we have Dunbar, H.S. Thompson is coming back, and we have Charles Rice. But in that area, you have Dunbar that is way in East Dallas, you have Charles Rice that sits on Pine, and then H.S. Thompson that sits in pretty much alone. You're going to have one school, we're going to be having them in the middle of South Dallas, no schools. We need this vote to stop until after we see how many houses are coming back, and then consider then.
Dr. Orly Watson, followed by Isaac Steen.
Good evening. I'm Ora Watson, and I live at 3030 Bryan Street in Dallas, Texas. I live right downtown. And to Superintendent Hinojosa, Board President, and members of the Dallas DISD Board, it's a pleasure for me to stand before you. I want to give a special thank you to Board Member Justin Henry for his attempts to keep those of us who work and live in South Dallas aware of what is going on. And he's gone out of his way to ensure that we are informed and that he gets our feedback. To the people who stood before you earlier, before I came up here and spoke to you about what's going on at H.S. Thompson and J.J. Rhodes, really, I could just say ditto, okay? Because it speaks to everything that I wanted to speak to. Last night, members of the J.J. Rhodes community voiced their opposition to the closing of the school and the transfer of their children to H.S. Thompson. Not because they think H.S. Thompson won't be a great school, but because we know and we have seen that, and it has been said here tonight, that schools anchor communities. And when you take a school out of a community, you have essentially said, we don't care anything about the community. Parents are going to leave the community. Our parents are driving all over Dallas and outside of Dallas to get jobs anyway. The one stable influence is their community. Parents will follow their children to schools too. You have said to us that there are not enough students to have 2 schools, and you've heard this before, H.S. Thompson and J.J. Rhodes. Where is the evidence? Where is the evidence? Where is the true evidence that those schools, that we won't have enough children to have in those schools? My bus, as the speaker before me has said, drives through that community all the time, and there are homes going up. So where homes are going up, families are coming back. And finally, I want to say, right now in 7 community pre-K centers, just 7 in South Dallas, we hire at, we have 135 employees, which are women, black women working to help their children stay in school, to feed them, to house them, to provide care for them. And you cannot tell me, because I've been there, I've been in, for keepsake, 22 years, you cannot tell me that when larger institutions open up pre-K centers, that it's not going to affect what we do. Thank you.
Isaac Steen, followed by Missy Huber.
My name is Isaac Steen, and I stay at 4810 Haywood Parkway. And I come to talk about our community. Now, the people at Thomas Jefferson come because they want a new school. They say the tornado tore their school up. Well, you tore our school up. We didn't have to have a tornado. They did it with the wind, you did it with the pen. You signed to destroy us. These people are coming and complaining about black businesses, black contractors. When they rebuild Thomas Jefferson, the way they got the paperwork drawn up is getting rid of black contractors. Then when you come into South Dallas and you want to take over the community and bring in large pre-K nurseries or whatever they call them, you want to destroy black businesses. And when it come down to us, you brag and you sit there, and each one of almost all of y'all can talk about how y'all just so proud because some 5th grader could memorize the Martin Luther King speech. The kids can memorize the speech, but you don't understand the destiny. You don't understand what Martin Luther King stood for. He stood for equality, something that we do not get in the southern sector. Only thing we get is leftovers. We had to rebuild South Oak Cliff. We had to rebuild Carter. We had to rebuild Kimball. We had to rebuild Roosevelt. But you want a new building, $174 million. We had to fight to get $56 million to get rid of a rat-infested building that you only put lipstick on a pig. Then we can tell you it looks good. I was in Carter today. It looks great. I graduated from Carter in 73. Do the math. I graduated in 73, and now they finally, after all that time, get renovation. We don't even have 5G in Oak Cliff. And you want $174 million to build a school. And the people at Thomas Jefferson, the insurance company say it's not total, but you want to total it with the pen. Once again, it's a slap in the face to us. Only thing we ask is for our share. Now, we're supposed to get 40 acres in a mule. We got 40 years and work like a mule.
Missy Huber, followed by Dimple Sarika, if she's not speaking, Guy Thomas.
I actually hate to follow this gentleman. I'm just going to say it. I'm Missy Huber, 6419 Glennox. I'm a DISD graduate and a proud Thomas Jefferson alumni. My dad was a DISD grad, Sunset. My son was a DISD grad, Woodrow Wilson. I want all of you to know this because I want you to know how invested I am with DISD and public education, and therefore I don't take my decisions or my requests lightly. For the past 7 years, I've worked actively on the Thomas Jefferson Alumni Association. I've worked for the past 4 years as the president of the Alumni Association, which has given me the opportunity to work with Principal Sandy Massey, the students, and the teachers. It's also given me the opportunity to be in Thomas Jefferson and see how outdated and archaic the school is. Well, we all know on October 20th, a tornado came ripping through Dallas, and it tore apart TJ, Cary, and Walnut Hill. But maybe we take this opportunity that Mother Nature has given us and let's rebuild TJ. Let's bring it up to a 21st century educational facility. So, as a DISD stakeholder and an active alumni, I'm asking that even before the tornado, Thomas Jefferson was in terrible condition. So I am asking you to please vote for Proposal 1A. Proposal 1 was just to renovate. I already know how outdated Thomas Jefferson was, and with the devastation from the tornado, we don't know what the underlying structure is. I know rebuild has been taken off the equation, so for me, the best compromise is Proposal 1A. It gives us an opportunity to keep the building that was built in 2004 and the new construction from 2019. I feel like this will bring Thomas Jefferson up to an academic facility for the 21st century. I'm asking each of you, trustees, I know all of you are educational visionaries, and so please take this opportunity to get this right and show them what DISD is all about, the opportunity for equal education. And I have to say, listening to everybody talk tonight, I hope everybody gets the request that you're looking for, because every child deserves a great education in DISD.
Guy Thomas, followed by Randy Mullery.
My name is Guy Thomas. I'm a graduate of Thomas Jefferson High School. I live at 4923 Heatherbrook, and I'm here to talk about what Missy just talked about. And I probably will not do it near as eloquently as she did, but Thomas Jefferson, as she said, was very dated before the tornado hit. The families in that community, the kids, the parents have all been through a tremendous amount. The DISD and the school administration did an extremely good job of getting those people relocated to Edison. The support that was put behind that was tremendous, and I know that all the parents and teachers and students appreciate that. But I think we've got a problem now that we've got to move quickly on. As good as Edison is, it's a long way from home for those kids. It's a long way from home for the teachers. They are in a really hardship situation. Their schedules have all been changed. The cost of transportation, the timing, it's going to create a real issue as far as keeping the kids at Edison as part of TJ. I think there's issues around teacher retention and potential morale issues. Sandy Massey has done an incredible job of managing all that, of bringing those teachers together, keeping the students motivated and focused on learning. And I don't know where we would be without her leadership, but at this point, they need your help. They need an answer, I think, quickly. I think they need what does the future look like? How quickly are we going to have a place to go? What can I plan on for my junior year, my senior year? And what will that look like? Will that be a building that I'll feel good about and be confident in, that the teachers will have the resources they need to do the job that they're set out to do? So hopefully you'll move quickly, that the building that you end up with, we would love to see a new building, but the proposition of doing 1A, which is keeping the newer buildings and rebuilding the really old part of TJ, to me makes the most sense and would accomplish all the objectives that are laid out. And I think it'll really say a lot about DISD and what the plans are for DISD in the future if we do something and do it the right way and have a building we can all be proud of. Thank you.
Randy Mullery, followed by Matt Bowers.
Hi, I'm Randy Mullery. Lived at 3226 Dutchess Trail, 75229. I'm also the D1 appointee for the 2015 Bond Advisory Committee and also the 2020 Bond Steering Committee. I'm speaking here in favor of option 1A, and mainly it's bricks and mortar, and it's also educational efficacy. We have an opportunity to add a K-8 school in District 1, in a District 1 feeder pattern. We have an opportunity here to actually make a facility that's 21st century ready for our kids. I know it's expensive, but when we do a 1A and replace as much as we can, we're looking at probably lowering a lot of the M&O over time. And actually, as far as financially, it'll probably be a wash. I know that we usually try to do, as we have in the first bond, we had less resources. We had to do renovations. I think that the team, the facilities team that is doing that has done a great job at the schools like South Oak Cliff, doing it at Carter, W.T. White. So I just want to say, please vote for 1A. I think in the long run, that's going to be more financially fit, and it will give a 21st century education to more kids in D1. Thank you very much.
Matt Bowles, followed by Esther McElfish.
Hello, my name is Matt Bowers. I live at 326 Trailview Lane in Dallas. And I want to first of all thank you guys for all of the services that you give to our schools and our kids. The time that you give to us is awesome, and I appreciate you doing this for us tonight. I want to start by clearing up a couple of misconceptions. We're not really talking about an older school here that just needed a little TLC. This was a school that was in bad shape. Then that school that was in bad shape got devastated by the worst tornado to ever hit Dallas. I work in the insurance industry. I can tell you, what insurance companies come back with isn't always what's best for the person that lived through the devastation. Talk to anybody who's lived through hurricane or tornadoes. I can assure you, what they come back with isn't what's always best for that resident or for a school. Trying to refurbish the main building is like putting a Band-Aid on a burn victim. If you have not visited the site, I highly suggest that you do that before you vote on this matter. The main building needs to be rebuilt. That is obvious. The other misconception that I think is out there after talking to this very passionate gentleman in front of me tonight is that TJ there's this misconception that it's an affluent North Dallas student body. Nothing could be further from the truth. I work on the committee that serves our over 30 homeless families that go to TJ. Our school is 94% Hispanic and about 5% black. This is a minority school. I do agree with him that since it is a minority school, minority contractors should be considered for this work. That is for sure. Ms. Massey, our principal, and the faculty there has done an amazing job. Many of these kids can't even speak English when they get to high school, and they leave there college ready. TJ has been one of the top performing schools at DISD for the last several years due to the work of Ms. Massey and her faculty. The academics at TJ have been fixed. Now you all have a chance to build a facility that could truly give these kids their best shot at the American dream. Anything else would be extremely disheartening for all involved. I'll finish by saying that you all have a chance to be a part of something special. By rebuilding most of this campus, you can create a school that will be something you can look back on with pride. A new building will breathe life into a school that desperately needs it. You will make neighborhood parents consider sending their kids to Cary and TJ when right now they do not. I attended TJ, and the diversity of the student body at TJ was the gift of the school. And that's gone now.
Thank you, Mr. Bowers. Your time has expired.
Please consider voting for option 1A.
Esther McElfish, followed by Ken Bart.
Good evening. Good evening, trustees. Esther McElfish, 6731 Bridge Street, 76112. And first of all, I'd like to say I'm a proud TJ alumni, class of 1965, living to tell it. I was a cheerleader, and I'm still a cheerleader for TJ. It was a white bread, pretty waspy school then. It's pretty diverse now. It's quite different. But I'm still a cheerleader for TJ because I think every single child in DISD deserves the very best educational opportunity they can have. I want to thank you, trustees, for your volunteer service. I know it takes an incredible amount of time and resources to do what you do, and I'd like to thank you for all your energy and time. Superintendent Hinojosa is a proud attendee, alum of TJ, so I know this is dear to his heart. I'm advocating for building option 2, a new build, and here's why. There's 3 reasons why DISD can and should build a new state-of-the-art building that's a model for all of the city. It's a myth that a new building takes longer. It doesn't. TJ was built in 56 and 58. It has asbestos, lead, God knows what else, in lead paint. It needs to be leveled. Mitigating that is not going to be cost or time effective. But we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's a wonderful net zero energy school that was built by the Irving ISD. It's Ladybird Johnson Middle School. Our Scott Lane here, who is now on staff at Dallas ISD, helped do that project. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We have good people who know what they're doing. It has a STEM living learning lab there with modules on the wall that show the solar system there, the geothermal system there, the wind turbines, the rainwater harvesting. Isn't this a model that we all want for all the schools in DISD? And this could be not just a site build for TJ, but this is a learning lab, as they do in Irving, where they use it for field trips for all the other students in the district to come and learn. That's what we need here. Those students are used as ambassadors, and they tell people when they tour it how great the campus is, and they want careers in those fields. I want to recognize Sandy Massey back here in the white. That's the second reason. She's Wonder Woman. She's the principal, and she turned that school around in 36 hours to get to Edison. We owe it to the teachers, the students, the administrators, everyone to build that. Here's the last thing. Rainy Day Fund is $500 million, $590,780,454. $500 million. We have the funds. And the difference between the new build and renovate and additions is $18 million. That's 3%. 3% of the rainy day fund. We can afford to do it.
McElfish, your time has
I'm a
expired.
cheerleader. I'm still a cheerleader for it. I hope you rebuild.
Followed by Diane Birdwell.
Hi, my name is Ken Barth. I live at 10456 Countess Drive in Dallas, Texas, and I think I've seen a lot of old friends in this room and up at the table. So I'm a huge believer in DISD, as most of you that know me. My kids, my volunteer hours, and what little money I have go to initiatives to try to support DISD. Also, I'm a TJ grad, and I can't tell you there was never a prouder moment of the staff and the team at DISD is when they responded to this tornado and helped these kids get a new life. It's been an amazing thing for me to see, and I just cannot believe when I go up to Edison and I see the principals and the teachers working every day to bring a sense of normalcy. It's amazing. Here's my thought on this thing, and I've spoken to a number of you and am hearing whether option 1 or option 1A that everybody on this board is committed to a building that will really be the best of breed in Dallas and on par with the best of breed in Dallas. I struggle with that because if you look at the Parsons report, even before the tornado, TJ was ranked as one of the lowest on the Parsons report and was really in need of a facelift. It feels like by just voting for option 1 and a renovation, we really don't have a lot of wiggle room here. So I'm asking that I think we should address that. We should look at option 1A. We should think through what we're doing because I want to continue to be a believer. And I believe in all 9 of you up there that you'll think this through and you'll do the right thing and we'll end up with a great situation for our kids. Thank you.
Diane Birdwell, followed by Dominique Alexander.
Good evening. I'm Diane Birdwell. I'm with NEA Dallas. I live at 5705 Meadowick, still just around the corner. I told you I would return every month until the district refocuses its priorities on safety and security. I do want to commend the district and its leadership, even down to the campus, for how they supported the schools damaged by the tornado. It showed that DISD can really respond and step up for its kids, its faculty, and its staff. And that's my ever-loving, everlasting point. When it wants to, DISD can change course and get results. So when I came here multiple times over the last 13 months, I have never wavered on what I am begging all of you to do to make our campuses and event locations safer, help our students cope with stress and adversity. Our city has a police shortage. Citizens are demanding a better response from the city to solve that problem, and it trickles into the campuses because we can see what happens when they run short. Crime goes up, people feel uneasy, people get stressed. In DISD, even at TJ, we have one counselor for every 500 students. That needs to be reduced to 350. We need lead counselors on campuses to take off some of the grabbing tasks of time and keep the counselors to help those kids that are in crisis so they won't feel they need to get a gun to solve a problem. We have one monitor for every 599 students. You're going to hear me do something I've never done. I'm going to mention my own campus, Bryan Adams, the twin of Thomas Jefferson. We have only 4 monitors for 2,100 students. We need 6 monitors, but under the current 599, we would have to have an enrollment of 3,600 students to get those 2 monitors that only make about $21,000 a year. They are not getting us what we need. We have 1 police officer and 1 PSO for every 1,000 students. Really? Look at that statistic. That's 1,000 to 1. Is that what we have in here for y'all for security? I asked you in November, how much is my life worth? How much is a student's life worth? And sadly, we're going to find out. After incidents on a variety of campuses where kids are being body slammed, kids are being hurt, kids are overdosing, kids are being beaten, and now shot. This is a crisis just as bad as a tornado. Well, we continue to spend millions on partnerships and contracts and additional things that we don't need that other people tell you we need. Let's stop and think about anything that should be more important than our children. When you start on this year's budget, you start with safety first. You fully fund it first. And then if we have any money for Teaching Trust or Teach for America or anything else, then we do it. How much is a child's life worth? You're going to find out in court. And that is what it took for y'all to pay attention. We deal with this every day. And by the way, I've been in this district 21 years. We still do not have a policy on what I'm supposed to do when a fight breaks out in front of me. Let me know. Thank you.
Dominique Alexander, followed by Amy Tawil. Dominique Alexander, followed by Amy Tawil.
Hello, how you doing? My name is Minister Dominique Alexander, President and founder of the Next Generation Action Network. First off, I'm going to start by thanking the staff, thanking the community communication team, thanking the chief of school leadership, her staff, for the awesome job that they did with the South Oak Cliff High School ribbon cutting event. But I'm here because there are 2 alarming things that literally concerned me. One of the things is that based on the stuff that I saw regarding Thomas Jefferson and the construction management at risk, voting considered the numbers that I've seen, you might as well just shut down the Office of Racial Equity, because guess what? You don't take it serious. What you saw on December 7, 2015, don't ever speak about it or don't ever say anything about it, because you do not understand it to its fullest. It's important that we understand and look at our district in the areas of lens. The school board, I remember the school board trustee who put a presentation the day that Sappho Cliff went up for vote for $52 million. That school board member tried to, by slide by slide, tell us why Sappho Cliff, rodents, asbestos, and all you name it, did not need $52 million. But that same school board trustee wants to tell us that Thomas Jefferson need over $100 million. I just want to know, how does that math works in his head? I want to see a nice presentation. I definitely do. Dr. Hinojosa, I know I've been working with staff about security. These cameras that sit behind me, I have not went on them for a reason about security in this district, because those issues are real. And if I go on those cameras with some of the things, it put our babies at risk. But at the end of the day, I need the district to take it serious about the security at our school. And the matrix should not be based on the number of enrollment, because it does not even match the number of the square footage of our schools. We have a real problem. Let's address them. Let's get to the bottom of it. Not saying that I am not communicating with staff every day, and I know they're doing a diligent job. But I know that this board and this superintendent runs the direction of this school district, and it's important that you guys understand that this is serious, because guess what? It falls right in your lap. Construction management at risk is not a tool that we should use, because guess what? We have told the voters that we are using their bond money through a project management system. Stop lying to the voters.
Amy Terwell, followed by Omar Jimenez.
I want to remind the speakers, please refrain from using trustee names or superintendent. Also, folks used my name earlier. I was fine with that, but my colleagues on the board and the superintendent, please try to refrain from using their names directly. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Amy Twill, 1330 Rainbow Drive, Dallas, Texas, 75208. While we're recognizing outstanding students, outstanding teachers tonight, I'd like to recognize the 22 Rosemont teachers who are here tonight. This is your Rosemont staff, your teaching professionals who have not been consulted on the proposed upcoming changes for our campuses. Most have more classroom educational experience than the administrators making the decision to move our third grade from upper campus to lower campus for the sole purpose of fitting into a magnet model, which we are not. There is no other DISD campus with a pre-K3 configuration. Earlier this evening, Trustee Solis congratulated the board for eliminating out-of-school suspensions for pre-K2 and making it a last resort for grades 3 through 5. Even the district configures grade levels pre-K2 and 3-5. We believe that this will be detrimental for several reasons. It will isolate third grade from other STAR testing grades. It will leave those teachers and students with no support from other STAR testing grade levels. It will most likely result in an academic gap from third to fourth grades. These are two important grade levels that the district so desperately wants improved scores. It will bring the negative issues of high-stakes testing to the developmentally appropriate early learning environment that has been created at Rosemont Lower Campus. The proposed move that has had zero community input is shocking to us as a staff, because we don't understand why the district would want to limit enrollment at a popular choice school, the district's very first dual language choice school. Trustee Solis, I'm...
Ms. Twill, please refrain from saying trustees.
Okay, I want my seconds back from President Henry talking. I want my seconds back. Okay, so the proposed move, to move third grade, a trustee on the board up there, I'm glad that the community of Girls Solar had the opportunity to give input for their award-winning facility, because we have not had that opportunity. To move third grade to lower campus, pre-K 2 grade levels will have to reduce sections to make room. We became the very first dual language school to answer Dr. Hinojosa's 2005 challenge to reclaim the middle class. Rosemont has done it, and we continue to do it. Why stifle it? As an answer to the district's charge to enroll more pre-K students, Rosemont instituted tuition-based pre-K this year to attract those moving into our gentrified neighborhood. We had hoped to expand this next year. That will not be possible with this move. This third grade move stops our momentum and makes it impossible to expand pre-K, and it limits the number of students from our waiting list to attend our school. We are asking you to put enough money into the upper campus renovations to continue to house third grade at upper campus. But instead of adding the appropriate number of classrooms to dispose of all the portables at upper campus, the district's plan is to move third grade to lower campus and reduce the number of actual classrooms at upper campus. The simple solution is to add a second floor wing to the proposed upper campus wing. Thank you for your thoughtful consideration to this.
Omar Jimenez, followed by Pastor Maxie Johnson.
All right. Good evening. My name's Omar Jimenez. I live at 1639 Cedar Bluff Lane, Dallas 75253. I definitely want to echo Diane and Dominique on their concerns about safety. I'm going to address those same concerns where it hits home for me. Months and years, and I think even before that, that our neighborhood schools in the Sigville feeder pattern have been unsafe. They have been unsafe to the point where we're getting a lot of negative media, that they're actually coming on the news. When that one incident that happened where a student tried to bring in a gun into our school, we have students that are fighting in our schools, and it was to the point where last week, one of them had to go to the hospital of their injuries, and there's still video out there from a student Snapchat that recorded that incident. The parents and the constituents of Sigville are tired of DISD not listening to them. You know, even in Southeast Dallas, we feel that our elected officials from all of our governments forget us. We want DISD to make a presence because those taxpayers, those 90% of the taxpayers of Sigville, think that we're just paying taxes to DISD and they're not getting nothing in return. We have serious safety issues all over the district, you know, Sigville or whatever school. Y'all had an opportunity to fix the ratios that we have with our counselors. You had that opportunity. But once again, politics was in the way. And I'm just afraid that it's going to be too late and y'all have to learn the hard way. I never want to see that. When we talk about the budget for next year, we want to make sure to see that we see ratios that are to make sure that there's more counselors for students, more monitors on the campuses, and making sure that our police department has the resources to do what they need to do in order to keep our campuses safe. We want to make sure that they also have that great relationship for those students. We want to make sure, that's what we're asking y'all. We're asking y'all to make sure that our schools are safe. Now, I had a chance to meet with Chief Lawton today, so I really appreciate him speaking with me, sharing some of that concerns. And I do appreciate him actually coming over to Sigville for the next city council meeting over there, because the parents want someone from DISD to listen to their concerns, because once again, they don't feel safe. They're pulling them out of our schools. And guess what? I never thought I'd see the day where we actually have a charter school that's about to be putting in our feeder patterns. So do the jobs that we elected you to do and keep our schools safe.
Pastor Maxie Johnson, followed by Rudy Karimi.
Pastor Maxie Johnson, 2021 Argyle, Dallas, Texas. My heart is heavy tonight because we have too many kids getting killed behind senseless gun violence. The young man that was shot attended Sarah Zone Walk, South Oak Cliff, and Texas Can, from my understanding. This is not just a district problem, but a problem in our city that we all feel the effects of. I am sorry that the parents have to feel what I feel every night when I go to sleep, knowing that my son is no longer here. My prayers are with you. On September the 30th at 3:57 p.m.,
I emailed our superintendent and informed her that a student got into South Oak Cliff High School with a gun after shooting it at the Exxon across the street. My question was asked, how did a student get in our facility with a gun? You did not even respond to my email. And it's in January, and I still haven't received a response. I said that God was kind to us that day, that he did not let another kid get killed. I also said I did not want to see another parent have to bury their child. Superintendent, do you know what it feels like to wake up and go to sleep knowing that your son is no longer here? It is sad when a trustee can't receive proper communication or response when it comes to kids' safety. If you email one of your employees and they never emailed you back concerning sensitive and serious matter, this would be considered insubordinate. Maybe if I had the opportunity to speak about this to you, maybe things would be different and the kid would not have gotten hurt. I've been criticized by certain ones in administration and said, I'm doing too much. I'm not operating in my lane when I advocate for kids and equity. But advocating for kids' safety is my lane. I promise District 5 a safe learning environment. All kids matter to me. I just need people to understand that in 75216, kids are getting killed. Data shows the highest rate. I've had to deal with racism from some of your administration concerning kids, black kids and brown kids. It shouldn't take that. All kids matter. I'm a trustee, but foremost, I'm a parent and a pastor. And I didn't come here to play politics. I came here to do what God called me to do. And I'm going to stand for what's right, even if I have to stand by myself.
Rudy Karimi, followed by Nancy Rodriguez.
Good evening, trustees. Rudy Karimi, 306 South Glasgow Drive, Dallas, Texas. First of all, I'm thrilled to be back. I was here last month to talk about this very complicated interlocal agreement between DISD and Randall Park, which has just been renamed to Willis Winters Park. This park is right across the street from Woodrow Wilson High School in East Dallas. I was here to talk about concerns around safety and security and parking and accessibility. I'm back tonight to talk about more concerns about accessibility to this park by the community. Article 4 in this interlocal agreement states that both parties, DISD and the Parks Department, need to be doing everything they can to maximize day-to-day utilization of this park. I'm here to tell you that utilization of this park is 100% right now by Woodrow Wilson High School students and J.L. Long Middle School students. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's what this interlocal agreement was designed to do. My concern is 0% utilization of this park is by the community. And the reasons are pretty obvious. The fences are high, it's always locked up, and it's very expensive to reserve this park. I've been in conversations with our council member in District 14 along with our Parks Board Department. We're proposing a plan for a minimum of 4 free play days per month. This doesn't cost anything. It's 4 free play days a month. That means the community can come in, the fences are open, everything is unlocked. They can access this park. They can play kickball, they can play softball for free. Afterwards, they can go to our beautiful historic pavilion behind the park and have a picnic or a barbecue. That's the definition of community. We don't have that right now because this interlocal agreement is not being followed. The reason I bring this to DISD is because DISD is a major stakeholder in this agreement. If and when this comes to your table, comes to your desk this month or next month, please support our position. Please support the minimum of 4 free play days that we're asking for. Please support our community. The community wants it. Thank you very much.
Nancy Rodriguez, followed by Jimmy Hosh.
Nancy Rodriguez, 6725 Bobolink Drive, Dallas, Texas, 75214. I'm here tonight in support of the parents and teachers at Geneva Heights and J.J. Rhodes Elementary Schools. It's disappointing Geneva Heights was left off the preliminary bond proposal, and the community around J.J. Rhodes supports his neighborhood school. The foundation of a strong community is a great school, and the backbone of a great school is a strong community. Before DISD even thinks about expanding its mission into things like the CPAL project, it needs to make sure its neighborhood schools are taken care of. My heart is racing with what I just heard. And I think you should really consider the words of your colleague tonight. I think that he cares about children, and I know what it feels like to be an advocate for children and to be labeled a troublemaker. Clean your house up. Take care of these kids. Support your fellow trustee.
Jimmy Hosh, followed by Charles Williams.
Jimmy Hosh, 6715 Rolling Vista Drive, Dallas, Texas. I represent 350 Dallas. A few weeks ago, I toured Ladybird Johnson Middle School, a LEED certified net zero school built by Irving ISD 10 years ago. LEED is the acronym for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. It is the most widely used green building system in the world. It costs 12% more than a standard building would have cost for Irving to build Ladybird Johnson to perform just 3 points below the LEED Platinum certification, the highest standard. It received the gold certification. Net zero means the building generates energy with its solar panels as it generates as much energy with its solar panels as it consumes in a 12-month period. That lowers the energy bills. About 1% of the total building construction cost is returned by that LEED building to the owner each year in the form of utility savings. That means it takes 12 years to recover the 12% LEED construction premium. Fortunately, the LEED building will have lower utility costs throughout its 50-year life. That savings over time lowers the cost of ownership for LEED building to about 62% of the cost of a standard building. That money not paid to the utility company can be used for education instead. Mr. Scrivener, Executive Director of Facilities and School Support Services for Irving ISD, said, quote, "Irving will never build another school that is not LEED Platinum certified and net zero. Irving simply cannot afford to pay the high utility costs of not doing so," end quote. Jim Scrivener pointed out that duplicating the LEED school today would have a lower cost premium because second-generation controls, sensors, and solar panels are more capable and less expensive now. Many lessons have been learned in the decade since the Ladybird Johnson School was built. Hundreds of building experts from 40 countries around the world have come to Irving to look, ask questions, and learn about the school so they can go home and duplicate it in their home cities. They have learned it is often unwise to cut corners implementing some of the energy conservation technologies. For example, if the geothermal heat sink is built too small to save money, the strata heats up, causing the AC not to work in a couple of years. By looking at the total cost
Thank you,
of
Mr.
ownership...
Hosh. Your time has expired. Our last speaker is Charles Williams.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, to the DISD board. My name is Charles R. Williams. I reside at 6543 Gentle River Drive, Dallas, Texas, 75241. I'm here to address the non-agenda item, which is year-round pay and holiday pay. We asked the drivers, representing the drivers, we asked that the board would consider the drivers at Pat Rainey and other service centers. It's very hard to try to take care of family when we don't get paid holiday pay. We don't get a check for 2 weeks. It's very hard to be married to a wife that's disabled, has no income but one income coming in the house, and many other drivers that is having hardship. We ask that you all will consider us in your budget before you turn in your budget this year, to consider us. Think about us, what we go through and what we deal with. We don't have a problem with doing our job, but we ask that you all will consider us, how we feel. We love doing our job. Don't get us wrong. We love transporting these children, and we love coming to work. But consider us. Consider us in your budget to give us holiday pay and the year-round pay, because we don't have any jobs enough to help us with the bills that we have coming in. And it's very tough and it's very hard. And we ask that you all would consider this. Take this into consideration. Thank you all very much.
This concludes our speakers.
Thank you to our speakers. We're going to move on to agenda item 5.01. Consider and take possible action to approve the minutes submitted for approval. Trustees, the following minutes have been submitted for approval. Public hearing on December 19, 2019. Another public hearing December 19, 2019, and a board meeting on December 19, 2019. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adopt the minutes submitted for approval. Trustees, are there any corrections? Hearing none, trustees, will you please cast your votes?
Trustee Johnson, are you going to vote?
It's just the minutes.
The motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. We're moving on to item 6.01. Consider and take possible action to adopt a resolution ordering a general election to be held May 2nd, 2020 for the purpose of electing 3 members to the Board of Trustees of the Dallas Independent School District in Districts 2, 6, and 8. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
It is moved and seconded to adopt the resolution ordering a general election to be held May 2nd, 2020 for the purpose of electing 3 members to the Board of Trustees of the Dallas Independent School District in Districts 2, 6, and 8. Trustees, is there discussion? Hearing none, trustees, will you cast your votes, please?
The motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 6.02, which is consider and take possible action to approve the resolution appointing a board member to serve on the board of directors of the Dallas Central Appraisal District for 2 years beginning January 1st, 2020. No funding is required. As you know, Trustee Flores was elected last year to serve out Dr. Blackburn's remaining 4-month term. So tonight we will need to appoint someone to serve the next 2 years, or Trustee Flores may want to continue to serve. Nominations will be used for this item. No second is required. A majority of votes will win the nomination. You can vote for or against the candidate, or you may abstain. The first name to receive a majority vote by members present and voting wins the nomination. Trustees, is there anyone that would like to serve on the board of directors of the Dallas Central Appraisal District?
Mr. President, I nominate Trustee Edwin Flores. Second.
Are there any other nominations? Edwin Flores has been nominated. Are there any other further nominations? Okay, hearing none, Trustee Flores is nominated by acclamation. You do not need to vote. We're going to go ahead and move on to agenda item 7.01, the consent agenda items. Consider and take possible action to approve consent agenda items 7.10 through 7.30 as amended. The following items have been removed and pulled for a separate vote: 7.08, 7.12, 7.14, 7.25, 7.26, and 7.30. Items 7.07, 7.23, 7.24, 7.27, 7.28, and 7.29 have been pulled from the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda items 7.01 through 7.30 as amended. Trustee, is there discussion?
No discussion on consent.
I'm sorry, yeah. Sorry. Trustees, please cast your votes. Thank you, Trustee Marshall.
The motion passes 7-0.
Moving on to agenda item 8.10, consider and take possible action to approve and adopt a total project budget of $174,350,000 for replacement and restoration of the Jefferson Cary campus site to be allocated as follows. 1, Thomas Jefferson High School campus renovation additions in the not-to-exceed amount of $124,555,000 general insurance, state, federal, and/or bond funds.
Scott, do you have a presentation after we get the item on the? Are you going to describe 1A?
I can. Yes, sir.
We first need a motion.
Yeah. And new pre-K 8th grade campus at former Cary Middle School site in the not-to-exceed amount of $49,800,000 general insurance, state, federal, and/or bond funds. Consider item 7.30 pulled because a new item. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
It has been moved and seconded.
Mr. President, before we proceed, I'd like to make a motion to divide the motion by first considering the second item, the new pre-K through 8th grade campus at the former Cary Middle School site in the not-to-exceed amount of $49,800,000. And then secondly, in a separate vote, to consider the first item, Thomas Jefferson High School campus renovations and additions in the not-to-exceed amount of $124,550,000.
You want to separate them into two items? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, sir.
That is something that is permissible by the board because these two items, if they're separate and can stand completely by themselves, then you can do that and do a division of the question.
I don't have an objection to that. Do my colleagues have an objection? I'm fine with that. Oh.
Excuse me. Thank you, Ben. As to why we want to separate the two.
Point of information, trustee.
Point of information.
Yeah, I believe that the second of the two items that we would be considering first, the new pre-K through 8th, was consistently presented at the board briefing up till now, whereas the second part of the item related to the construction at TJ has changed since the board meeting, and I would like to discuss those changes separately from the pre-K through 8th grade school.
So I missed the briefing, so I'm just trying to get a clarification. So the 49.8 was always the consistent amount at Cary?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, I'm good.
Okay. So we're going to start with the first part.
The second part, pre-K through 8th.
Okay. The second part, consider and take possible action to approve and adopt a total project. No, it's not going to.
The new pre-K 8 through 8.
Yeah, I don't know the difference between the.
The motion would read, consider and take possible action to approve and adopt a new pre-K through 8th grade campus at former Cary Middle School site in the not-to-exceed amount of $49,800,000.
Okay, so consider and take possible action to approve and adopt the new pre-K through 8th grade campus at a former Cary Middle School site in the not-to-exceed amount of $49,800,000 general insurance, state, federal, and/or bond funds. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Trustees are their discussion. Foreman, Flores, mic's on. No questions. No. If there are no questions, trustees, please cast your vote. That's still the whole thing.
Mr. President, I think what you just said without the mic on was that what came up on our screen was the original motion, but if board services can correct their record to show that this is just the vote on the Cary Middle School.
Trustee Mitchgate's corrected up
on
the
screen.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. It looks different here.
It's in where it's saying motion, amendment 1. The motion passes 9-0.
So now we're going to consider and take possible action to adopt Thomas Jefferson High School campus renovation and additions in the not-to-exceed amount of $124,555,000 general insurance, state, federal, and/or bond funds. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Trustees, is there discussion? But I believe.
Actually, Mr. President, before we proceed with this item, I have another motion. I'd like to move to postpone this item into the next board meeting. And my preference would be that the president entertain creating a new board meeting immediately preceding the previously scheduled board briefing on which we could vote on this item, so it's only 2 weeks from now.
I object. I think we need to go ahead and do this. I don't want to go over this all over again. We need to vote.
There's a motion on the floor, right?
You didn't get a second.
There's been a motion. There's not been a second. The motion fails.
Keep it moving.
Trustees, we're going to see a presentation, I believe. Am I?
Can you get it up on the screen?
She's pulling it up, so just put number 1.
It's.
We can, wait a minute. Okay, hold up. Yeah, but we're in a different system. What is it?
Number 1, so just the front keeps carrying.
Number 80.
It's just the very first one. It's this one right here.
She wants the board,
Yeah,
item
that's
ready to come up.
right here.
They're going to put it up on the screen, and it will be what's reflected as the backup on this agenda item.
Do we have those materials?
Yes, you have them.
Well, we have them. Why don't you go ahead and get started while
Okay.
they're getting it called up?
Okay. So if you look at the backup, obviously the very first slide is the existing building that shows you the ages of the various parts. And then it talks about option 1, renovation and addition, and basically what we would be doing with option 1. If you go to the next slide, which is number 5, number 4, it shows you the areas that would be demoed. Basically cafeteria, kitchen, weight room, ROTC building. And then slide 5 shows the areas that would be added onto the building. We would maintain the 1956 academic wing as a part of this, and the total cost for this option is about $82.1 million. Then we added an option 1A that is really between option 1 and option 2. And to explain this, what we looked at, there's 2 areas of the building that are not 1956 vintage. The 2004 academic wing that was added, and the current bond project that was ongoing. You can see it on the screen. The blue area is the project that's ongoing right now. The green area to the side is the academic wing. So this particular option, if you'll go to the next slide. Do you have it? This slide right here would show you the portion of the building that would be demolished with this option. You can see the new wing and the 2004 wing would actually stay in place. The total for this option is $124.5 million. And on slide 7, I've listed some advantages to utilizing this option. Obviously, there'd be more continuity with the new pre-K-8 that's being built. They would look somewhat similar. We would be able to address the traffic congestion on Walnut Hill by backing up the new building away from the street. Much better ingress, egress from the site, better layout of the athletic fields, and those were the reasons we put this option in here. And then going on to option 2, which I presented at the briefing, was a brand new building, which is basically 1A, but it also takes down the 2004 academic wing and the new part that had just started. And this one is $147.4 million. So I know I've had a lot of questions on, why did you bring this option back? And if you look at the numbers on slide 13, it gives you the breakdown of the various options. And as we looked at this, if you look at option 1A, if you take into account all of our available funding, including 2020 bond, you basically can build 85% of a new TJ and a brand new pre-K-8 for $35.8 million. So in my opinion, in our opinion, that was very good value to be able to get a new high school and a new pre-K-8 for $35 million. The other thing I took into consideration, as I said at the briefing, the insurance funds that are reflected here are a minimum. There's a good chance we could get additional funding. And the other thing was we've talked about possibly state funding that would be available. And then at the bottom of this page, we've had about $4.5 million of donations at this point to help offset some of those costs. So again, we looked at this and said for the amount of money it would take to construct pretty much a brand new campus, it was a good value. And that's why we went with this option.
And I'll add one more thing to why I also approved this going forward. My whole issue has been speed. How soon can you get this done? And what are the obstacles? That's why I'm adamantly supporting the construction delivery method. The other thing that this option provides is once you go in to start demolishing, you don't know. Once you go in there to refurbish the existing standing building, you don't know what's going to be back there, and you don't know what else is there, and that could cause delays, which is my main argument is the timeline. If you completely demolish those buildings and start anew, then speed becomes more realistic because they will remove all the problems and they will redesign and move it. So with those factors, that's why I recommended the original one, but that's why I'm very comfortable with this one, and it's all because of the speed opportunities that we have through the demolition and the rebuild.
That's it. Okay, Trustee Foreman.
What really tears...
Trustee Foreman, I'm sorry. Flores was... Hold on, let me get my stuff together. Trustee Flores and then Foreman.
So I'm thank you, President Henry. When when we were presenting the original two options, it seemed that we were kind of being, there was a famous guy who talks about being in the prison of two ideas. Like you're stuck into it's either this thing or it's this other thing. And part of the timing on this was the fact that I was having a conversation with Trustee Henry. I hope he doesn't mind me bringing this up last Thursday, and we were discussing this issue specifically. And I said, there has to be something in between. There has to be something between, like all there is reno and all there is replacement. And so, based on that conversation, I reached out to Scott last Thursday and said, Scott, are there other potential options on this? What happens if we keep the 04 and the current, construction that's going on, and how would this affect, the amounts? And so he was kind enough to reach out to to the architects that had already been working at TJ, and basically just using their standard formulas to, so many square feet for a new building, so many square feet for renovation and stuff, came up with this number, and that was right, before, the MLK holiday. So I know that there have been a lot of concerns about, well, where did this plan come from? Well, it was basically a conversation between a couple trustees that said, well, could there be another option, something in between, kind of a compromise between just the full replace or just the reno? And so that's where option 1A comes from. So, I hope that my fellow trustees don't read anything into this from a procedural point of view, but really kind of focus on the substance, right? The substance about doing something big, something bold, something for Dallas. They would say, we were hit by a tornado. These kids are going to be out of their school for basically 3 years, but we're going to build something that we can all be proud of, that the community can be proud of, and that embraces the community. When these schools were built 60-some-odd years ago, the architects didn't have meetings with the community, and they didn't ask the neighbors what they thought about it, and they didn't ask, well, where was the traffic going to be? And, most kids walked or biked to school at the time. And they built these, huge, 6-lane streets, not thinking that many cars would ever be on them. Well, when you have, as you see in the photographs, 12 extra portables at this building, and you have, 1,800 plus kids at this facility, I mean, traffic has been a problem there for years, and and it is at all our schools because of this change in how we, deliver our kids to school. And so the community, the neighbors, and we had a very well-attended 300-some-odd folks came out to ESD from the neighborhood association, from the Walnut Hill Neighborhood Association, that 1 square mile area, because they were curious. What were the plans? What were we thinking? What were we going to do? They drive past those campuses every single day and see the destruction, and they had certain things that they wanted. They wanted the schools back, of course. They wanted the traffic off the streets. They want the kids in the building, in other words, more contained. And they want, the excellent education programs that are available in the area, including, the collegiate academy and those kinds of opportunities. So that's what the neighborhood wants. I know that the city is going to be working with us, but also holding us accountable for code enforcement and those things. And I've met with Councilmember Gates and her planning and zoning person, and they're going to hold our feet to the fire on this thing and to make sure that we're good community neighbors. So the 1A option actually lets us take those things into account. It also lets us take into account, new safety requirements that are coming in through SB 11. Right, the campus right now sits right on the street, or basically a couple, lanes from the street. One of the ways to create safety is to actually set the schools back farther. That's what they did at Sandy Hook. The reason I know that is because I spoke to the architect of Sandy Hook, and that's what he said. One of the main things you do is you set the schools back when they completely rebuilt and tore it down and built a brand new Sandy Hook. So those are some of the options that this will provide us. I mean, I wrote the district sustainability policy when it came to construction, and I really do believe that we should build net zero buildings here and become leaders in this community. The cost used to be 12%. It's actually more like 5% now for new construction to do net zero. If we did net zero ready, we could probably save some of that money and then go to the community and get them to pony up for those solar panels, which are really that 5% delta these days. And so those are the discussions I've been having in District 1 around these schools. And this is a great opportunity to provide something really unique and different. That will also be the first time that we have a K-12 space in one of our facilities, and certainly is a model that's used elsewhere in North Dallas and other schools that we compete with. And that is another part of this, is that we really need to create facilities that are going to attract the community, and so that we can compete mano a mano with the other facilities that are there. And, this tornado has given us the opportunity, as bad as it is, but it's given us the opportunity to really think bold and innovative and different about what we're going to do on this campus. So I'm going to ask my fellow trustees to support option 1A. Because I think it is what's best for the kids in this community that have already suffered so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Flores, Trustee Foreman, and then Trustee Marshall.
What I was going to say is in October of 2016, we had a board meeting where students and parents came to the board begging for a new school at South Oak Cliff. But we had a board member that spoke against that. They begged for a new school at South Oak Cliff. So what's different? Am I on the wrong side of town? Is my color wrong? We want all kids to have equity within this district, no matter what their color is, no matter what their race is. But I get disheartened when I see people play one way for one group and another way for another group. I'm going to play the same way for all of them. Literally. South Oak Cliff, a rat-infested school that had all kinds of problems, termites, everything else, falling apart. And Scott, you were here in October of 2016, because I went back and pulled the tape so I could see the presentation of the board member who did a presentation to say, don't give them $52 million. And you want to know why I'm angry? Ask yourself, why am I angry? It's a charade, and it's not fair. It's not fair to any of the kids. I'm not going to sit up here and play politics and games. I'm not owned by anybody. I don't have to worry about nobody calling nobody on me. I'm my own woman. And I'm telling you that you need to be fair with all the kids. I'm a graduate of this district, and I can go back further than most of the people sitting up here. I've known and seen the difference that you make, and it's painful. It is absolutely painful. I will be voting for option 1. If it's good enough to renovate South Oak Cliff, and they were out of their building for what, 2.5 years almost? Then I'll be doing the same for TJ, because those kids do need a building. They do need something that's going to help them move in terms of their education, but it's not a new building for me. And when we start treating everybody the same, then I won't have a problem with voting for a new building when you start talking about it south of the Trinity. Thank you.
Trustee Marshall, then Johnson.
So, Scott, I have a few questions I want to get to in a moment, but before I do that, I just want to try to take the politics out of this for a minute. And, you know, there's been a question asked about what's different this go-round with TJ, and there's been a lot of comparisons to South Oak Cliff, and I just want to point out two things. One of these schools was hit by a tornado. I get that there was poor condition at South Oak Cliff, as there is in many of our schools, but one of them was hit by the largest natural disaster to ever hit this city and is in shambles. And I would suggest that anyone that's speaking to the board or that's on the board that hasn't visited TJ needs to do that, because this looks like a third world country war zone over there, and there are many parts of my district and Edwin's district won't be the same for years, if not decades. And to suggest that the other schools around DISD, many of which are in poor condition and need to be improved and replaced in some cases, to suggest that they're all the same as a school that just got hit by a tornado is ludicrous and insulting to me. Second, I would point out that if we're going to make a comparison with SOC, which again I don't want to do, we need to talk about TJ on its own. But if you want to compare SOC and TJ, the 2013 Parsons report did that. It compared SOC and gave it an FCI score of 23% and graded it yellow, which meant that it was in the middle of all the schools in DISD. It was actually 16th on the list of the worst conditioned high schools in DISD. And at that same time, pre-tornado, TJ had an FCI score of 30%, making it the 10th worst conditioned high school in all of DISD. So prior to the tornado, TJ was already in worse condition than SOC was, and then it was hit by a tornado. So when we talk about needing to improve a school and step up for our kids, there's no comparison between those two. Now, getting down to the three options that you've presented, Scott, I have a number of dimensions that people have talked about. There's speed of building, there's traffic, there's safety, there's academic function, there's environmentally friendly, and there's aesthetics. I think those are the 6 topics at play here. So what I would like to do relatively quickly, since I have 8 minutes and 33 seconds left, is for you to tell me which of those 3 options is best on each of those dimensions. So for instance, on speed, which of the 3 options would be the fastest to build?
Probably option 2.
Okay, what's next?
Option 1A.
And then 1.
Yes.
Okay, traffic.
Traffic, 2. 1A, 1.
Okay, safety.
2. 1A, 1.
Academic function, or ability to best teach our kids.
2. No, Sherry says probably a tie between 2 and 1A.
And then 1.
Yes.
Okay, environmentally friendly.
2.
1A. And then
1A.
Okay, and then 1. Now, aesthetics. This is obviously the least important of them, but what's the order there?
Same. 2, 1A, 1.
Okay. So on every single dimension, you rated 2 as the best option. On every single option was 1A, which is the more expensive replacement of part of the building. So the only thing that comes down to it, given that you agree that 2's the best option on every one of those dimensions, is cost. Now, when you talk about cost, obviously the insurance companies didn't pony up as much money as they should. But there's also the potential for FEMA money here. Am I right? I've been reading a lot about Mayor Johnson's conversations with FEMA and the possibility that we might get some federal money. I know we don't know the answer yet, but it's possible.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. There's also a possibility of some TEA money. Is there not?
Yes.
Okay. And there's the bond that we're proposing to voters in 2020.
Yes.
Okay. And your estimates on your slide that have $35 million for 1A net of the money that we're already going to receive, that doesn't include FEMA or TEA money, right?
No, nor donation money either.
Nor donations. So it's possible net of FEMA, TEA, and donations that we would actually get to build a brand new pre-K through 8 and a brand new high school for free. Is it not?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
A lot of things happen, yes.
Yeah. So one thing I want to point out, and the reason why I moved to postpone this until next week is because, or 2 weeks from now, is because I think part of the confusion of some of my colleagues on this board has to do with the use of the term renovation. When we worked on South Oak Cliff, as an example, we renovated South Oak Cliff. We did not tear it down and replace it. This building was hit by a tornado. You cannot renovate a building that has no walls and no roof. Right?
It's difficult.
Yeah.
Correct.
So words matter, right? And I think that there's been some concern by some of my colleagues because we keep talking about even option 1A is renovating, or option 1 is renovating, option 1A is renovating and rebuilding, and option 2 is rebuilding. And, while I would be a supporter of option 2, it doesn't appear that there's any chance that my colleagues will support option 2. So moving towards the compromise of option 1A, I think we need to talk about it in the context of what it is, which is replacing a blown down building, and not talk about it as if it's analogous to some other renovations that we've done in the past. And so I would just suggest to my colleagues and build on what Trustee Flores already mentioned that we've got an opportunity here to establish a bold and beautiful new building that we can all be proud of. It can serve not only as a model for how our schools should be from a safety perspective, a traffic perspective, an environmentally friendly perspective, an academic function perspective, but it could also be done in time to get these kids back for the 2022 school year. And we spend a lot of time talking around this table about how we need to beef up enrollment in the district. This is an opportunity to stop the hemorrhaging of children that are leaving because we're asking them to go 12 miles away to Edison and get them back in their home school so that they will stay in the school. It's also an opportunity for us to beef up enrollment through building an attractive building in a part of town that is competing with private schools and parochial schools. And I'm sorry, but even before the tornado, driving by TJ, it's not attractive from the curb. And if you live in that part of Dallas, you've got other options. And this is an opportunity for us to remedy that. So it'll stop the bleeding of kids that would leave because they're going 12 miles away and beef up enrollment because now we've got a building that has curb appeal and can compete with other schools in that area. So I think we've got a real opportunity here. I think it's a statement that we can make that what our kids deserve is to emerge from this tragedy with a new opportunity. And I can't help but think of the phoenix rising from the ashes. And I think we've got a real chance to build something special here. I would have supported option 2, but at the very least, I hope my colleagues consider option 1A. Now, I will conclude by saying that, Scott, I don't think procedurally this was handled very well. And I know Edwin just mentioned that there was some natural evolution of the conversation that happened between some trustees and between the Edwin and the superintendent. But the reason why I'm uncomfortable asking everyone around this table to vote on this tonight is because we're just now seeing option 1A in this board meeting for the first time. And the way that board meetings are supposed to work, the whole reason we have board briefings is so that we have time to review something, ask a bunch of questions, get additional information, and then vote on it. And you're asking us to see this, ask questions here when we only have 10-minute limits, and then vote on it right now. I know I already made the motion and didn't get a second, but I would implore, whether it's the board president pulling it, the administration pulling it, or my friends around here reconsidering my motion. But I think there's a lot of unanswered questions here. I think that deeper dialogue between the administration and individual trustees and the opportunity for my colleagues around this table to go visit TJ and walk the school, I think would change the outcome of this vote tonight. And so I hope that my friends around this table will consider option 1A since 2 isn't on the table anymore. But if they won't, I hope people will at least pause, take a couple weeks, and ask some more questions, and then come back and decide what's best for the kids of that feeder pattern. Thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Marshall. Trustee Johnson, then Mackey.
Chief Lane, how long have you been doing this job that you're doing, your job?
I've been here 3.5 years.
3.5 years. How long have you been in doing the work in that capacity, whether it's here or any other school district?
38 years.
38 years. I'm not going to try to tell your age. When you presented this to the board, were you aware that it was a blown down building? When you presented the PowerPoint presentation at the board briefing, when you guys gave us option 1 or the new facility, either option 1 or option 2, were you aware that this was a blown down building?
Yes, sir. And even in option 1, the areas that were most severely damaged are recommended for replacement. So the academic wing in the middle wasn't, there's $17 million worth of damage in that building, according to the insurance company.
Okay. But when you presented I think it was $82 million.
Yes, sir.
You presented what you felt in your heart, and with your expertise, I think 38 years can get the job done, correct?
Yes, sir. I think the $82 million would be a good project.
Okay. And I thank you for telling me that. I don't want to play, I'm with Trustee Marshall, I don't want to play politics, north versus south, right? And that's been done. But let's be 100. I was the PTA dad on the opposite side of this table when we came down here begging for a new school, since everyone mentioned it. We had rats in the building. South Oak Cliff had a fire on the second level. They pushed black kids to the other side of the school on the same floor while they put fans in to blow the fumes down on that other side. So they were still in the building. Woodrow had a fire. Those kids went home. It's not in question that the black and brown community have been disenfranchised and treated unfairly for decades. Okay? We had lead in water. We had asbestos. We had roof caving in. It was raining in the building. And we came down here. That walkout was started by kids, not adults. Kids started that walk, that particular fight, advocacy, however you want to say it. And we was told no. Now, I don't hold no grudge against anyone that said no. W.T. White came here, and they told us we don't need a new school, but they advocated for a new gym. Teachers was getting sick, kids was getting sick, kids was falling out, and we begged for a new school. And to the best of my understanding, if someone can help me here, there has not been a new school built, high school, in the southern sector. Comprehensive. Is it? No, not comprehensive. Yeah, I'm talking about comprehensive. Adamson.
Hold on, Trustee Jones, you have the floor. If someone has a question, they'll
okay, in the black community. No. So I don't. When we start playing politics, and I think that's a dangerous road to travel, because black kids was ignored. So that's a very sensitive area to tap in. What is important is that TJ kids needs a new school. They need a school that they can go to. They need a school that they can learn in. They need a school that needs to be fixed. Based off your expertise and what you said, I know which direction I'm going. Now, this is what I do not like. This falls into politics to me. Something big for Dallas. Something new. That was stated by one of the trustees. We didn't have that same attitude when it came to South Oak Cliff or Carter. We weren't saying something big for Dallas. Something new. Those words were not echoed. When Roosevelt needed a new school, they asked for they settled for a renovation. We wasn't echoing something big for Dallas or something new. Now, I try to be quiet for the most part, and I'm tough behind the scenes. You know that. But when we publicly do this, then I'm going to say what I need to say, which is right. All kids matter. Whether you're on the north side, south side, whether you're black, white, or brown, all kids matter. And I agree with Trustee Foreman. If we're going to do it for one, let's do it for all. Let's echo those words for all. Something big for Dallas. When we're talking about kids, we should all celebrate whatever project we're having, and it should all have excitement to it. I didn't hear that when I was a PTA dad. I didn't hear that when I was the chair for the site-based decision-making. I didn't hear that when I was the president of the South Oak Cliff Parent Coalition. We heard no. We heard those kids don't need a new school. I went through some things behind that particular advocacy as a parent. I understand that you may not have been here, but I don't think it's fair to use those terms and compare that particular situation. I don't think that's fair. The Parsons report said that TJ was in a worse condition. I've heard that 4 years ago. When they came to South Oak Cliff, they said we're going to put nice paint on the wall. They wasn't talking about doing anything. Kids had to fight to get that done. Data can be skewed. We create data.
We look at things and we create data. So data can be fixed to justify whatever you want to justify. Now, I have not been in TJ when it was up. So I cannot say what was worse and what was not. But I can say that over at South Oak Cliff, I don't think TJ had rats running down the hall. I don't think they had ants and termites coming, crawling out the wall and biting kids. And the list go on and on and on. Data didn't show that. So a new school would be environmentally friendly for everybody. Whether you West Dallas, South Dallas, East Dallas. Anything new, it would be environmental friendly. And I understand that TJ wants a new school. I'm going to support what you brought to the board briefing, because even tonight, you just said 8 minutes ago that you believe, based off your experience, that $82 million will get the job done. Based off what you just told me. So I'm going to support that, because I don't believe 38 plus years with your expertise that you would bring anything to this board or any other board that you don't believe in. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So I'm going to support that. You're the one that said we can do it. I'm going to support $82 million, because you just said to me for the second time tonight that you believe you can get the job done. If you would have said to me a few minutes ago, 8 minutes ago, Mr. Johnson, Trustee Johnson, I made a mistake, then I would have reconsidered. But again, that's why I asked you twice. You said we can get it done. So I'm going to support what you said. I just don't want anyone to use the politics of what has happened in the past and compare. Because I agree. The school was hit by a tornado. SOC was hit by neglect. Both are still storms. It all depends on how you define a storm. Kids need, that's why I said all kids matter. These kids need it, and I'm going to vote to make sure TJ gets what it needs based off of your recommendation at the briefing. Thank you.
Trustee Mackey and then Garcia.
Thank you, President Henry. Thank you all for the presentation, the discussion of this. Obviously, this is a really important issue. It stirs a lot of passion. I also just echo, I flat out disagree with talking in comparisons of schools. We know we need to do right by every single one of our kids. And I do want to add, so the question that's also in my mind, because I did sit through the briefing, and I know, yes, there's damage here, and we know TJ, the old building, was not perfect even before the tornado. At the briefing, it was called a good condition, definitely salvageable. We feel good about it. And so I get that this proposal, and I appreciate even the option to bring this proposal forward and go through this process. And at the end of the day, we are entrusted with finances. Yes, we have a healthy fund balance. At the same time, we have 230 plus schools. Also, there's always needs as a conversation. So I have a lot of questions to try to understand this a little bit better. Hopefully it can shed some light. So first of all, I've heard a lot of these conversations about the cost of the building. And that is different from long-term cost of ownership. Do we have any sort of projections around what those differences would look like, et cetera?
As far as the maintenance costs of the building, new buildings compared to older buildings?
I just mean that when you buy a car, if you buy a hybrid or an electric car, the cost of owning that car over a 10-year lifetime is different than if you buy a diesel Hemi truck. Mm-hmm. All of those costs factor into costs, and I think cost is a really meaningful thing. We're talking about a difference of $42 million in the proposals, and that is really meaningful. That is real money. And so I just find in general, I think, even if we don't have it, I know that's not our plan right now, I think that would be really helpful in helping to make these decisions, just going forward with all of these construction aspects. I want to also add, yes, we need to get TJ a building where they feel like they can go to school, et cetera. We also need to make sure that it is a building that they can be proud of, for sure. So I do want to know more about the $82 million option. What does that look like in terms of, obviously there is a part of restoring the 1956 building, which has been listed in fair condition and has been said to be solid. What does that look like in terms of restoration when you were talking about this. I did get to walk South Oak Cliff. It's a gorgeous building. Obviously, totally different situations in terms of how the building got to where it was. But I am curious to know, what would that $82 million for this addition and the renovation result in from your perspective?
Well, Scott's getting to that. I think as you think about it, when you drive up to TJ, most of us that have been there so many times, that big auditorium is sitting in the front. So under the renovation, you got to deal with that first, and then how do you deal with everything else? If all those buildings are taken down, then you don't have that obstacle to get started. Yes, but back to his, I just wanted to make that point that with the existing structures, you have workarounds. If it's demolished, then you have the opportunity to make it tighter, compactor, and give you other spaces. Scott, I don't know what you're going to add as to what the scope of some of those, some of that work would be interior.
Yeah, if you look at the total number of 82 million, 48 million of that is for new buildings, the ones that are damaged that we're tearing down and building new. So the remaining 17 million is for renovation of the academic wing and those other areas. So basically what you're going to see with those renovations is, the walls will be painted, possibly new windows in, along the exterior, new floors, tile floor, whiteboards, typically what we do on renovation projects, ceilings, but there wouldn't be any reconfiguration of the interior spaces like there would be with a total rebuild. Not that they need to be reconfigured, but if you can build a new building, obviously you would build the functions differently than the way they're set up right now, because at TJ, there's been iterations of additions over the years, and it's just kind of put together. So the building would look great, I think, for the 82 million. In terms of function, obviously you don't get the level of function you would with a new building. So I think that's your biggest difference.
But for 82 million, including the 17 million, you do believe that building would look, it would be a building to be proud of. Obviously, I get it. I know that 1A and 2 would totally change the building and be a really amazing school as well, for certain.
Yes, sir, I believe that because, again, I'll look at what we've spent, at some of the other buildings, even South Oak Cliff, 55, 56 million. That building looks great.
What happens, so I know during the briefing also, his presentation, this is the initial draft. Obviously, there are a lot of things to figure out. And I know that this phase gets followed by 5 to 9 months of also more in-depth design, discussion, et cetera. In the 3 things that you mentioned, better architectural matching, traffic congestion, and better layout of fields. And I think, again, just to be transparent, a concern I have there is that that's not necessarily about the academics, the classroom space, what the students are utilizing. But it doesn't mean it's not meaningful. So as you all look through this, and in those 5 to 9 months, as you play with this layout, and whether it's option 1 or 1A here, as those things are happening in the discussion, I'm sure you'll also be looking for other ways to minimize traffic congestion. Try to change up some of those if you're leaving part or all of the 1956 building. What does that process look like? Because I know obviously changes can happen. And I think anyone on this board, I really do believe that if there's a very clear, like, hey, this is what we figured out a different way that we can reconfigure it, et cetera, I think everyone on this board would be willing to hear those conversations and I believe support it when it was that way. I think the fact that this is coming now with the 42 million addition, I think is where the questions are coming from, at least from me. So what does that process look like if during that process of design, discussion, et cetera, what happens when you see, hey, this isn't working, or we actually need to do something different, or we could do this and it would cost us $7 million more?
Well, I think if we went with option 1, the architect is going to work with the existing footprint, which leaves the building very close to the street. So there's physically no way to back it up. And part of my concern is if we continue to look at different options, time is an issue with this project. There's no doubt about it. We've got 9 months built in for design. We've got community meetings and so forth. So I think regardless of the option, we're going to press as quickly as we can.
Okay. I'll hold that for now. Thank you.
Trustee Garcia. Trustee Flores.
Actually, Mr. Oh,
Go ahead. I already.
Well, the first thing I do, Mr. Chair, is I've been in a lot of conversations around campuses and, whether it's bond planning or renovations to campuses. And I feel like there's a little bit of prescience that I've acquired over the years to know that even if we waited 2 weeks, there wouldn't be significantly different questions that a trustee would have versus just asking those questions now. Oftentimes, over those 2 weeks, we'll do our own thing, we'll go back to our own lives, and then perhaps the day before, we'll come up with 2 or 3 additional questions we want to ask to feel like we did the job that we were elected to do. And so in keeping with that spirit, Mr. Chair, and given that it's 10:15 and we'll probably be here for a little while longer, if there are no objections to the motion, I'd move that we suspend the rules and allow for any questions, regardless of time, to be asked here at the table. I don't believe that Scott's going to be able to do anything different in 2 weeks if we were to delay the vote, but I have heard from some of my colleagues that they may want more time. I just don't know that we're going to have any additional questions that are going to bring to light anything else over the course of the next 2 weeks. But Trustee Marshall has mentioned multiple times that because we're limited to the 10 minutes that we've got with the 2 rounds, I would just suggest that we suspend that. And if you have any additional questions, if you go past your 10 minutes, then we do that.
Are there any objections to Trustee Solis? There is.
So I'd call for a vote.
Yeah, it's going to call for a vote. So Trustee Solis wants to suspend our rules to not limit discussion on this agenda item. Okay. All those in favor?
Could you, Trustee, well, what are we doing again? I'm trying to get a full understanding.
Trustee Solis has made a motion to suspend the rules so that we're no longer using time limits. So trustees can ask whatever questions they want to ask on this presentation, option 1, 1A, or 2, given the fact that 1A is basically being briefed to us right now. So he'll need a second. Because Trustee Foreman objected, and then we'll take a vote.
Okay, so to pretty much stop the questioning.
No, to keep the questions going open as long as we'd like.
It won't be 10 minutes.
Okay, gotcha.
Second.
So the motion, you got that motion by Solis, seconded by Flores. It's been properly moved and seconded. Excuse me? Oh.
Mr. Chair, I'd also, at this point, prior to the vote taken, call for a recess of 3 minutes.
You said prior to the vote?
Prior to the vote. I'm calling for a recess per parliamentary
Trustee
rules.
Foreman objects.
This will be your decision to make. It's a presidential decision. There are no votes on a recess.
I'm fine with that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I know everyone likes being here, but we're going to reconvene. Trustee Foreman, if you could please join us. We're going to be eating breakfast in here. Thank you. So Trustee Solis had a motion. It was seconded by Trustee Flores. The motion to suspend requires 6 votes. Trustees, is it going to come here? No? Okay, requires 5 votes. Trustees, will you please cast your votes?
Some of us already did.
Is this what comes up like this? Is that still the suspend?
Trustee Henry, Trustee Johnson,
That's where it's at.
Trustee Mackey. The motion passes 5 voting yes and 2 voting no.
Okay, so the motion passes. Trustee Mitchke, you have the floor. Don't have a time limit.
Actually, Mr. Chair, I had the floor when I made that motion.
You would do it when it was your turn. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Trustee Solis.
So I'll be supporting option 1A. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Trustee Solis. Trustee Mitchke.
So I have unlimited time. Okay. Well, first thing I want to do is validate a number of things that have been said tonight. The heroic effort, the inspirational effort that everyone in the district made to respond to the tornado and get our kids in school, back into school within a week. That was a tremendous effort. And I also want to validate the point that, yes, that school has been seriously damaged, and we need to do what is necessary to turn it into a first-class facility. Second thing I want to do is talk about procedure. Procedurally, this comes up in a very bad way. The administration had recommended option 1 at the board briefing. We discussed it at length. And then on a state holiday, a new plan emerges. When I first saw it, I thought, has the administration switched its recommendation from option 1 to option 2? And I asked that question to Dino. Dino asked it to Scott. And, oh, no, we're just going to increase the cost by $42 million from option 1. I looked at the backup data. There didn't seem to be any compelling reason for it. But this is coming up at the last minute on a $42 million addition to a plan that the administration had already recommended. And it was one that recommended to the board. And also, I went back and I looked at the Morning News editorial. And the Morning News editorial, if I can pull it up on my phone, presumably says this: at around $80 million, the early budget for the new TJ campus is certainly more than enough to give every parent in its feeder pattern reason to look seriously at choosing Dallas ISD. So the administration recommended option 1. And then at the very last minute, now, Trustee Flores is a great lawyer, a skillful advocate. If I ever needed an attorney in his field of expertise, he would be the first person I called. But Trustee Flores is the one who comes up with the construction alternative. He's not an expert in construction. He brings it to the administration at the very last minute. Fiscal responsibility. Okay, we are going to have to go to the voters and ask them to approve the biggest bond in history, in the history of Dallas, probably the history of Texas. We need to show them we are good stewards of the public money. Sure, we could do a lot more with $144 million than we could do with $124 million or with $80 million. I get that. But at $80 million, $82 million, we were told we could build a facility, rebuild a facility, renovate part of it, and it would look as good as South Oak Cliff. And South Oak Cliff looks great. Despite all the controversy that went into it, South Oak Cliff looks great. And I do recall that vote back in October of 2016. I was board president that year, and I was the one who got to vote last. That was a divided vote to do $52 million to renovate South Oak Cliff. Divided vote, 6-3. I thought it was, at the time, I thought it was a close call. I supported the administration's proposal. I had some doubts as to whether we could make that look like a new school, whether we could really do everything that Dr. Hinojosa said we could do, and he was right. That school is exactly what we need. South Oak Cliff was renovated and it looks great, and everybody who was at that ribbon cutting knows that that was a complete success. Dr. Hinojosa got it right. I was so glad. I had wavered in my mind on whether or not we would go that way because there was some data on the FCI scores. The FCI scores were done several years before 2016. There was a lot of new information, a lot of it anecdotal about the condition of South Oak Cliff. But at the end of the day, I was glad that we did the $52 million. I know that the South Oak Cliff community fought really hard for this. There was a lot of resistance to it, but we wound up, as a board, we wound up doing the right thing. So so now we come to TJ. TJ suffered tremendous damage. It's not like if we go with option one, we're saying, no, we don't acknowledge that there's damage there. We don't commit to giving the students at TJ a first-class facility. They deserve a first-class facility, and the $82 million will get them the first-class facility. That was the administration's recommendation to us. Sure, you can do another $42 million. You can do a better facility with that. There's no doubt about it. Put $42 million in any other school, and I'm sure we could do a lot more. So in terms of fiscal responsibility, we will be meeting our commitment to the kids at TJ, to that community, if we put the $82 million into it and turn it into the first-class facility that we were all on board with, or most of us were on board with at the time of the board briefing. Now I want to move to our equity resolution. We passed our equity resolution in December of 2017. That resolution was developed over a year. Trustee Foreman had asked the administration to draft it. Mr. Cordero, Jamila Thomas, and others worked on it. I saw drafts as it was coming through. Trustee Foreman liked the draft at the end of the day and asked me to put it on the agenda. I thought it was great. I didn't think of it as a list of platitudes. I thought of it as a statement of imperatives, that we actually are committed to equity in this district. So we now are talking about a delta of $42 million. Do we spend it to make TJ not just a first-class facility, but a first-class facility plus $42 million? Or do we figure out where can we best spend that $42 million that is now in question around the district to improve equity throughout the district? And I'm not convinced that putting in another $42 million over and above what the administration had recommended at the board briefing is a prudent use of our funds and is consistent with the commitment that we made to equity. So I'm going to be supporting option one. Thank you.
Trustee Garcia?
I essentially did to everything that has been said earlier today, but just to make clear, again, as has been done before, what we're talking about between option 1 and 1A is that the functionality of the academics for our students under option 1A was comfortable enough to be presented at the board briefing as a recommendation as it is still today. Is that correct?
Option 1.
And under option 1, not only are there additions, including a band hall, dance room, additional classroom spaces, secure entry, administrative buildings, locker rooms, but that what TJ will in fact receive is again, a first-class facility for those students.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, justify to me, as you can, the advantages that I see under 1A come down to relocation of entrance off of Walnut Hill, and a few other compact spacing, maximize site efficiency. Can you give me more details into that $42 million that I believe plays into the advantages that it doesn't under option 1A, under option 1?
Well, the $42 million would basically rebuild the academic wing. So if you look at the layout right now, the band hall is in the 2004 academic wing, which is all the way on the other side of the campus from the auditorium and everything. So as far as where things are located, they're not ideal at this point with the building that's there. So the $42 million, if you build a new one, you would be able to get your spaces, the function of the spaces, in the right area. That's probably the biggest thing. The other is being able to get the building off the street, because there is a lot of traffic on Walnut Hill, and unless you can get the building back, it's difficult to get the cars off the street, because right now there's no way to get off the street because the building is right there. So those are probably the biggest differences.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Johnson.
I want to say, listening to Trustee Mishke talk, that was a very, when you talk about what we did at South Oak Cliff, it was tremendous. I remember when I was again the PTA president for South Oak Cliff, I spoke with at that time I was once again on the upper side of the table, spoke with Trustee Solis and Trustee Cowan, who visited our community and came over to see what was going on, and said he was going to do his part. I believe that Trustee Solis played a very vital role in making sure that South Oak Cliff was done correctly, and I appreciate him for that, not knowing that a few years later I'd be sitting beside him. So I appreciate that. Of course, Trustee Foreman has always been there for our community. What we did over at South Oak Cliff was tremendous. Sherry, you did a lot of stuff, a lot of taking notes and getting things together. And it wasn't an easy job. Chief Alexalde, who came in and, took us over the top. Community trust her, I trust her. Did a great job, even did things that I believe weren't even in her job, because she's over academic side, but made sure that this project went well and never made a promise that she couldn't deliver on. And so many people played a role in making sure this particular project is done. Dakita was the program manager on that particular project. And as Chief Lane has said tonight, that Dakita is going to also be the program manager for Thomas Jefferson, correct? So they just came from this renovation, so they know what they're doing. We have all witnessed the beauty of the transformation. I've coached at South Oak Cliff. Even when I walk in there now, I still get lost, because it looks like a total different school. I have to ask people where I'm at. The lunchroom is the place for me where I can understand. If I find a lunchroom, then I know where I'm going. Hey, they did a tremendous job on there, and we know we still got some stuff that we need to get done and corrected. But overall, it's a total different school, and I believe with what you presented to the board, it's going to be great. The $82 million, and again, what you said tonight is going to be great. I think that if the option 1A would have probably came first, and it was understandable, maybe it would have probably worked. But because you're so adamant and clear, you're giving me a clear understanding. I don't have to doubt. There's no gray areas for me. You're giving me a clear understanding. I believe you're giving this entire board a clear understanding that option 1, you will be able to do a great job, and the kids at TJ will feel like the kids at South Oak Cliff proud. When they walked into school, I remember one kid asking, is this really for us? Is this really my school? And I was able to tell that particular kid, this is your school. They did this for us. That's what they're saying. They did all this for us. So kids will be proud the way our kids are proud over in South Oak Cliff High School. I'm expecting Roosevelt. When we finish with Roosevelt, I'm expecting those kids to be proud and excited what's going on now. It was a little turbulent, but we got things going. So I'm looking at the district turn schools around, especially in low-income areas. So I think with what you have presented to the board, I believe it's going to be great. I'm going to totally support this project for TJ, and I'm excited to see what kind of outcome it's going to be when it's done. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Johnson. There's been a lot said, so I really don't have much to add to the conversation at this point. I do just want to send a reminder that all of our kids across our district and all of our schools deserve the best that we can give them with us remaining fiscally responsible. Just want to remind us, as I hear comments about this school, that school, this neighborhood, et cetera, that our district is composed overwhelmingly of students of color, overwhelmingly students who are low income, whether you're at TJ, nearly all schools. So we have concerns across this district. My bottom line is that we should be able to give them an extra facility. I think you all know how to do that. I think you've done that at Sauk and Hillcrest and other facilities. I think the plan that's presented, you wouldn't present it on the academic side, the facility side, or functionality side if you didn't feel like it was very positive for kids. That's just how this administration operates, very high expectations. So I'm not going to be redundant from a lot of the stuff I've heard today. But I want to make a motion that I submitted timely yesterday. And I'm reading the motion now. It's I move to consider and take possible action to approve and adopt. I'm going to have to change it a bit. Give me 1 second.
Trustee Henry, basically now your motion would just be to amend the dollar amount in the first number 1.
Yeah. Thank you. I move to consider and take possible action to approve and adopt for replacement and restoration of the Jefferson campus site to be allocated as follows: Thomas Jefferson High School campus renovation additions in the not-to-exceed amount of $82,100,000 general insurance, state, federal, and/or bond funds.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Trustees, is there discussion? Hearing. Trustee Mitchell.
Now, I think Dr. Hinojosa said that you don't know what you're going to find when you try to renovate a school. And I am sure if we find something that does increase the cost, the board would be certainly willing to look at an amendment at that time for something that is actual and real, rather than just allocate a bunch of money in the event that we might find something. So I just say that as a data point.
Trustee Marshall.
I will just once more implore any trustee at this table who has not visited TJ to do so before we vote on this. We've talked a lot about South Oak Cliff, and while some of us voted for that money and some of us voted against, I believe every single trustee on the board at that time went to South Oak Cliff and visited it before taking this vote. And now we're about to vote on a school that was literally hit by a tornado, and I'm quite certain that a number of you have not seen it. I hope that you will visit the school before you take this vote. Thanks.
So, I want to make a comment, Trustee Former. So I'll make a comment. The first piece, in your opinion, Chief Lane, if you're going down this path and you feel like there's things that you find, like Trustee Mitchell talked about, where they would need additional resources, have you come before the board? Let's talk SOC. Did you come before the board with SOC asking for additional monies?
Yes, sir.
You did?
Twice.
Twice. Did this board approve it?
Yes.
Okay, and I only want to make that statement because I think my colleagues on the board, we have empathy. We understand what happens both in the South, the West, the North, and the East. And I feel like if you're going along a path and you can justify why there should be additional funds the same way you justified it with SOC on 2 occasions, it's hard for me to believe that this board would look at a community that's been hit by a tornado or devastated, and our kids who we try to serve on a day-to-day basis and say, no, we're going to cut corners. I think ultimately what this board wants is an excellent school. And I think there's people here that have communicated they believe it can happen at that $82 million amount. But if it cannot happen at the $82 million mark, it's hard for me to believe a world where this board doesn't support you moving forward to make this an excellent school. So I want to make that on the record. And a side note, I have been by Thomas Jefferson. I haven't walked the grounds, but I've driven around it multiple times. I do encourage us, even after this vote, however this vote occurs, for all of my colleagues on the board, including myself, to actually get out of the car and walk around TJ, and maybe that gives us more context. So I do agree with that aspect. I'm not sure if it's necessary to have this vote, obviously, but I do think that's a good opinion for all of my colleagues.
Well, we already suspended the rules, so there is no calling.
Trustee Foreman, I got it. Thank you, Trustee Marshall. I got it. So if there's not any more discussion.
I have one thing I'd like to point out.
Trustee Marshall.
I'm very upset that we continue to talk about South Oak Cliff in the context of this conversation because they're very different. But I would also point out to the folks that weren't on the board back then that the South Oak Cliff topic came to this board table, gosh, I can't even remember how many times. It was 4 or 5 or 6 times that first the administration came and said, we want $17 million. Then they came back and said, I'm making these numbers up because I don't remember the exact amounts, but it was 17, then it was 22, then it was 28, then it was 34, then it was 52. And so, part of the reason why I asked for a postponement is because of the fact that the administration has done a disservice to this board and to this situation by for the exact same reasons that Trustee Mitchke talked about. I mean, you first talked about 82, then you came back and said, on a holiday, and said, now we're changing it, and the board is hearing about it for the first time here today. But, that notion that just because we talked about one number first doesn't mean that we can't then come back and talk about a different number later. I mean, that flies in the face of what happened in that debate. It came back 5-6 times. So, for the same reasons why we're all saying that, Trustee Mitchke pointed out that the superintendent did a great job and was right on South Oak Cliff, and Trustee Johnson pointed out that Scott Lane's got so much experience that he must be, 200 years old. And for all those reasons that we should accept the recommendations of Scott and the superintendent.
I never said he was 200 years old, Scott.
But we can't have it both ways. We can't say, yeah, they did a good job because we trusted them on SOC, and then say, okay, well, what they're recommending to us right now, we're going to ignore. I mean, you can't have your cake and eat it too. They came back originally and the first time go around on SOC and said it would be fine, the school would be great for $25 million. And so we approved it. Then they came back and said, no, now we need $52 million. Does that sound familiar? It's the exact same situation. It's just playing itself out again. And you know what the board chose to do the last time this happened? They chose to accept the last and most recent recommendation of the administration and to approve it. Here, the last and most recent recommendation of the administration is to do option 1A. And yet it appears several colleagues around this table are going to ignore that and assert that they know best about construction, despite the fact that their superintendent and their chief operations officer is telling them that they should vote for option 1A. It's perplexing to me. Thanks.
Trustee Flores, Foreman.
Mr. President, I would like to call for the vote.
There's a second.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Do we need a discussion or do we vote?
All I was going to say, when you all suspended the rules, you can now, if you want to, go ahead and do that. But the motion was to allow people to speak as long as they wanted to, which was voted on by the board. Calling the question cuts off if there's anyone else who would like to speak.
Okay. Trustee
Or
Flores.
can do that.
Yeah, did Trustee Johnson.
Trustee Flores.
Thank you, President Henry. So I'm just going to, raise a couple issues. And that I was going to raise with Scott. We really don't know exactly what the condition of the building is. We have a general idea, but we just don't know what's behind the walls and what's happened since it was damaged. Sorry. We just don't know what's happened since October with the rain and everything else. So other stuff could have happened, and maybe we can go to get that from insurance, but we really don't know, right?
That's correct. There's risk.
Right, and so, it could be that the architects and the engineers get in there, and as Dustin has already pointed out, we had to modify our initial estimates, in other construction projects, based on what was found. I remember we voted on a $2 million change because of some pipes and stuff that made perfect sense to do, and the board supported it. It seems to me that if you're going to make, the fiscal conservative argument, it seems to me that the risk is for the renovation that we don't know. In other words, it could be another 10 million, it could be another 20 million, it could be another 30, it could be another 40 million. At which point we're at the same price as if we had just replaced it to begin with. So it's the penny wise pound foolish thing to do, is say, well, we'll go with the cheap. You buy cheap, you buy twice. And so I just don't see how that argument plays out when the experience has been with 60-some-odd-year-old buildings. And I've been on the board since 2005. I've been around for a lot of buildings, new buildings, renovations, new wings, and I know that we're going to discover stuff we don't know about. And these numbers are based on, what is the estimated cost per square foot to renovate? What is the estimated cost per square foot to replace? But we do know what it's going to cost to replace. We have a good idea and a good estimate, a good faith estimate from the administration on the renovation, but we really don't know. So it's possible we could end up spending more on the renovation just because we don't know what's there versus having the certainty of cost of doing the replacement. And that would be the more fiscally conservative thing to do rather than having this open end where we really don't know. And to defend the administration now, if we do go forward with the renovation, okay, it's this board that's telling you, okay, we're limiting you to 80 million. And when we do discover things, and you will, this board needs to be ready to take the hit on those amounts to say, yeah, well, we told you, you did your job, and you did it very well. But by going cheap, we're probably going to go twice. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Okay.
Just to clarify, the vote will be on passing the amendment, and then we will vote on the motion as amended, correct? Okay.
Trustees, will you please cast your vote on the amendment?
Trustee Foreman. The motion passes 6 voting yes and 3 voting no.
So now you're on the main motion as amended.
So now we're on the main agenda item as amended. So let's consider and take possible action to approve and adopt for replacement and restoration of the Jefferson Cary campus site to be allocated as follows: Thomas and Jefferson High School campus renovation additions in the not to exceed amount of $82,100,000. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
You were voting on the main motion as amended.
Yeah. Okay.
Voting on the
It
main
is the
motion
main
as
motion already
amended,
on the
which is
table.
the 82,000.
Okay. One day, man.
82,100.
82 million.
82 million, I'm
82 million,
sorry.
100,000.
They damn sure can't build a school for 82,000.
That'll be the last
It's
one.
late, I'm tired, I'm sorry.
So, trustees, could you please cast your votes? It's past my bedtime.
Okay. The motion passes 9-0.
It is 10:56 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned.